Stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then I always want to say amen. Hi, I'm going to put you on speakerphone.
Roll call. John.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
Stephanie.
Here.
Dale's here. Approval of the agenda. Since we can't add anything to it, can we get a motion to approve?
Make motion to approve agenda.
Motion by Scott to approve,
I'll second.
seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, so the 22 budget is in front of you. What has changed from last week was I did the changes from the county agent and from the water board, and I did the 2.8% increase on everything except for the sheriff's department and the DES 911 and weed. The DES 911 and weed still have the 1.3% cost of living increase, and then the sheriff's office got the $6,700 salary increase. So that's the way it shows right now, and then the reserve is added into the general fund.
Is the last page that comparison page you're talking about?
No, it's the front page. It's the comparison page is on, that is on page 2, Schedule A, page 2. That's your comparison page. So that's what we levied last year, and then this is what we're levying this year. Comes out to be $250,688.59, levying more than last year.
That's with the budgeted reserve.
That's with the reserve like it was last year.
And that didn't reflect in these other budgets.
Correct. So with the salary increases that were discussed at the last meeting, that comes out to, with retirement, FICA, job service, and workers' comp, the 2.8% increase and health insurance, that comes out to $31,720.11.
That's on top of the increase that was already put in place.
No, that's the whole, that's the 1.3 and the 1.5. Yep. So it gets to be 2.8.
31 what?
$31,720.11.
So there's 220,000, 219,000 more spending in this year's budget than there was last year's budget?
Well, there's $250,000 more levied in this year's budget than last year's budget. But there is spending increases, of course.
Yeah.
So what it amounts to is, given as it sits right now, we will raise the portion of taxes that this entity levies by $250,000 across the board in Griggs County.
Yeah.
So where was the biggest change of numbers to bring that up to the 250,000?
From last year, or last meeting to this meeting? Is that what you're talking, oh, or
Just
like from?
total, like
Um,
all from last year to this year difference.
So the carryover number, in the 2021 budget, to start the year out was 880,000. And then this year it's 776,000, so there's 100,000.
So how come the carryover number is so different?
Because it is what it is, it's a carryover, so
Okay.
so more money was spent last year's budget than the budget before.
Okay,
More percentage of the budget was spent. So
okay.
maybe just a real quick, the way the general fund is set up is that the monies that are budgeted they're monies that can be spent. If it's not spent, it ends up with a carryover into the next year. That is the first thing we start with when we determine how much money we're gonna levy. So we take the carryover dollars, the money weren't spent, then we take revenue, put it into the pot, then we decide how much money is gonna be spent, the budget, the expenses, if you will. And we subtract from the expenses the money, the carryover money, and the revenue money, and the difference is what we levy.
Okay.
So there's three different things that affect the amount of money we're gonna levy: the carryover, the revenue, and the expenses.
So our carryover was, okay, I remember. What page is that carryover on again?
It is on B6.
And then if you wanna look at if you wanna analyze the carryover, then you have to go into the Dakota programs and look at each individual account and see what monies were carried over from each account, because that accounts for the whole total of the general fund. So for instance, the biggest carryover, I assume, was the reserve fund. What did we end up with, what carried over the reserve fund last year in the general fund?
In the general fund, we didn't spend any of that.
Yeah, we had to have.
Out of the fund, we didn't spend anything.
So when we made accounts whole, where did we take the monies from? There's a lot of accounts that ended up with a negative balance. Where did we take the monies from? We waited until after we transferred it and then took it out of the general fund in total.
Correct.
Okay, so it's the same thing. It came out of the reserve. We just took it after we transferred it to the general fund.
So then it became a transfer and not an expense
Yeah.
on the reserves.
But without that reserve fund there, we wouldn't have had the money to transfer.
Okay. So the reserve fund is kind of like our little savings account on the side that we use for if we go over budget and need to tap into it, correct?
Or something that we missed.
Okay.
Yeah, short and,
And how do we decide how much to put, I'm sorry,
okay, no, so.
How do we decide how much we put in the reserve fund, or how does that, like?
We have been using the reserve fund up to, to balance the amount of monies that were levied.
Okay.
So the reserve fund was a lot bigger at one time, and
Yep.
it's slowly been coming down. So say we got to the end of the year last year and we needed, we didn't want to raise the taxes on anybody. We lowered the amount of the reserve, I think by last year by $75,000.
Okay.
In order, but at a point, you can't lower it because we have no way to deal with emergencies or
Right.
our incompetence by not figuring out how to do the budget correctly. If an expense comes up, we don't have the ability to borrow money. We don't have, the only place we have to fall back on is the existing budget,
Yep.
taking money out of an account, which there isn't a lot of room on any of those, or having a reserve. The nice thing about the reserve is that that money sits there. If we don't spend it, it just rolls over to next year and it's still sitting there. Although at first it rolls into the general fund as a whole and then is spread amongst the general fund. So the reserve goes to pay part of everybody's salary. It's the first money used in the calculation.
Okay. And do we have like an idea of how much we want to keep in the reserve fund every year? Like is it an interest bearing account so that I don't know anything about
No. A budget is the ability to spend money.
Yep.
A budget is not a pile of money.
Okay.
So the money, every dollar that is allocated within this budget is not actually in those accounts. It sits in the general fund of the county.
Oh, so the reserve isn't actually has its own checking account number. It's
Neither-
it's not just on a piece of paper saying this is my reserve fund. I'm not going to touch this or whatever, but this is just it's in my reserve checking account. Okay,
This whole budget is that way.
got you. Okay.
This whole budget just gives you the ability to draw funds from the overall county account. Way over, it sits over here.
Yep, yep.
That you see every month, you see the balance.
Yep. Yep.
All these monies sit in there plus a little bit more, but the budget gives you the ability, the authorization to draw money out of that
Right.
account.
Right. Okay. I just wasn't sure if.
It's a fairly simple process if they would just let it be simple, but they've made it so convoluted here. If this was run on QuickBooks or something like that, it'd be real easy. But no.
Right.
It's nothing more than a checking account and blank checks that we have authorized the use of to whatever degree that's authorized.
Okay. So are we thinking on tapping into the reserve for this year's budget or what?
No, we create the reserve.
Okay.
We
Well,
would
you
have,
said,
we
so
would have,
last year when you brought 75 over to
we
do.
would have to lower the amount of money we have available in reserve.
Right, right.
Right now, we would have to lower to the point there would be no reserve.
Okay. How much is in the reserve? Is that on the page here?
Yep, so it is the,
278,
278,000?
oh, some other.
yep, so it's on B15 and it's 278,897.31, and that's just for purposes for today.
Okay.
I just used what we budgeted last year for it.
Okay.
And that's just an estimated number because we haven't finished this year out. We don't-
No, right, so we haven't finished this year out, so any discrepancies in the budget, and usually the discrepancies are we're spending more money as we prepare this than we're planning on, will lower that reserve number.
Okay.
So right now, it's to the point where there's no money, if we canceled out the overage in the budget, there would be no reserve, basically.
Right, right. Okay. Now, when we do the last year's to this year's expenses on each department, which one had the biggest changes? What sheet is that? I looked at that one the other day.
Departments or levies.
Okay.
Because there's the comparison page on B4, and that's just within the general fund
Yeah.
And then the estimated expenditures, that's what is budgeted this year. So when we do budget, we just automatically assume we're gonna spend 100% of the budget.
Yep, okay.
And so then that's how you kind of see the estimated expenditures, that's what's budgeted this year. And then the final appropriations, that's what we have for, or requested for next year.
So as it stands right now, we're looking at a 16.6% increase in levy over last year. Raising taxes by 16.6%. So whatever piece of property you have taxed, you can consider that it's gonna raise by 16.6%.
Right. But the department heads difference between them on that page before isn't, whoops, I did do a lot on that. The difference between them two isn't a lot, so where's that biggest difference that's making this to where the $200,000? On this sheet with the departments themselves, right? This is the department expenses, right? That's not a huge dollar amount difference, that's what, because the guesstimated end is 1.12 and the request is 1.15. I'm sorry, I'm being painful.
No,
So I
it
mean,
makes
so
sense.
it's
It's good to know.
Right.
$36,000.
So where does
Then
that-
another 15, then another 50% on that with the retirement and everything else. So it gets up, it's gonna amount to $50,000 worth of that 250, I would say,
For what?
for the wage increases.
That,
and-
that,
That's on that page, right?
yeah,
Or
that,
is that the
num-
30,000 total?
yeah, that number that I gave you, that 31,720.11, that is included, that includes the retirement,
Oops.
the FICA, the job service and workers comp, and then the 224.64 of for the increase in health insurance.
Mhm.
That's all included in that.
Okay, so where else is that biggest difference then?
It's, that 100,000 is that carryover. 2021, we started the year, or we ended the year with the 880,000, and we ended the year for this budget with the 776.
Oh, because it's more, our carryover is less, so that's what's making us the big difference.
Well, that's 100, and the carryover and the lesser carryover and the wages are decreasing it by 130,000, but there's more revenue. Correct, Sam?
Mm-hmm.
So there's more revenue by how much?
Because using the department spreadsheets, if they have department sheets, it's only $26,000 increase with all you guys together.
No, there's a lot more than that in the general fund. You have all the other items, general fund at the end, over and above the department heads.
Okay.
That gets to be.
That $1.8 million is an itemized number, so if you go back through there, you can account for every dollar of that $1.8 million, and that's where
Yep.
you have to look.
Right.
The overall revenues, Sam, in the general fund, what's the difference? Last year, this year.
There's about 100,000 more in revenue.
Right, so there's 100,000 more in revenue, which about cancels out the money that was spent last year, so we're still $220,000 over what was spent last year, accounting for additional revenue and less carryover. So to put it, there's less revenue there's more revenue by $100,000, there's less carryover by $100,000.
So that
which
washes
cancels
it.
itself out. And so the increases are within the budget.
Okay, so.
Would a chunk of that be because we didn't have a county agent last year, so there was carryover?
That would, right, that would carry, that would be to the benefits, it would be
Benefit,
to
yeah.
the deficit this year.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter, we have, it's obvious, we have 100 or 200 and, excuse me. Yeah, $250,000 more, so it doesn't make any difference, that's what we're planning on levying, that should have helped the equation, rather, that was
Yeah,
yeah, we're gonna spend that again this year, so.
19, estimated 20. This one's 20. So actuals in 19 for revenue, we received 961,938.48.
Right.
Actuals in 2020, we received 1,036,765.90. That includes that COVID,
Right.
those COVID funds, and then that's where I have that transfer out on that B6.
Okay, so back to that levy page.
The COVID funds are in a Schedule C fund, correct?
Correct, yep.
And that, how much is in there? One 17 or 170, I
I
think.
kept messing up my papers.
Well, what's remaining?
You can't mess up my papers this way.
yeah. I have a hard time flipping through screens, so I can find what I want.
122,725.31.
Okay. So, okay.
That was at the end of June.
So have we talked about all of the levied funds that we're talking about? Have we agreed? We haven't agreed on all that yet.
You guys have not gone through Schedule E yet?
Right, but we haven't finalized the wages or salaries yet either.
Correct.
Let's go through the Schedule E and get that taken care of.
Okay, 57,600.
Because that's the only one we haven't looked at.
Correct.
No.
So Schedule E, page 1 and page 2, those are just those levies numbers. So we'll just continue on to Schedule E, page 3. This is Griggs Nelson Health District. They are not asking for an increase in their levy, so it would just be the 33,000 that we've been levying.
So is that included in the budget right now? Is no Schedule E is included in this?
In
budget?
the comparison page, it's
Yeah.
all compared, yeah.
Last year's is, yeah. Okay.
And so, if you're good with that one,
Everybody good with Health District as is?
Yep.
okay. Then it's the Historical Society.
They get a $250,000, is that right?
Get a quarter.
Mhm.
Up to a quarter.
Okay.
Usually
Should my
covers-
numbers match between, I'm sorry. My numbers aren't matching, so I'm on the Schedule E. Shouldn't that flow onto this comparison page?
No, not 100%. Okay, so if you look at, if you go to this one, E1,
Okay. Yep.
we add in a 5% increase in the levy for unpaid taxes. So then that's what goes onto this page.
Oh, fantastic.
Then don't ask me how that came about. It's not our doing, it's the state.
They just
So,
tap it on. Okay.
so because this is the ability to spend money, we have to make sure that the money we take in is actually matches how much we authorize to spend. And we can't, at this point, we don't know if we're gonna collect all the taxes.
Right.
So we put an arbitrary number higher into what we're gonna spend so that we levy a higher number. And almost always, we have been above the 5% mark. We've never had a tax delinquency of rate of 5%.
No, it's been in the threes, I think, at the most.
You're right. So then, as we do have tax delinquencies, sometimes 3 years later, the numbers will change because we collected or sold property or
Okay.
didn't collect or wrote off the debt.
Look at that. See, I'm smarter already.
So it's not a very precise deal here. It's a dartboard thing, close enough.
Yeah, so the Historical Society gets a $0.25. And so then these are the ones that it gets kind of sticky when I don't know exactly what the, the taxable value is. Because we try to get as close as possible, but I can't increase, I can only decrease, my program will decrease, but yeah, it kind of makes it a little,
And we're
difficult.
at 23,000 per mill, is that correct?
that's what I'm
That
estimating.
estimate right now, what was it last year?
20,
2225?
And technically, by levying a mill amount, we're in violation of the century code. We're supposed to levy in dollars.
Dollars, budgets, yep.
But we do it anyway just to make things simpler. And the way we get around it is we assume the request is gonna be more than the maximum levy allowed. So if they request more dollars than the 1/4 of a mill, all we can do is give them the 1/4 of the mill.
Yep.
So that's how we've been.
A dollar.
And Sam puts it into the
As a
program
member
that
of the
way, and it just
Historical
drops,
Society.
it'll drop it down to right at the maximum levy. So we're actually levying, we're taking the request in dollars, but we can't fulfill the whole request. We
Yeah.
fulfill it up to the levy amount.
Okay.
A member of the Historical Society, what that does is pays the specials.
Right.
Yeah, that's about what it does for them.
taxable value for last year was for this year was 22,170,180.
Okay.
Okay.
So it'd be 22,000, just move the decimal 3 points.
Okay.
But I don't think the mill's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna be 23,000.
And that goes back to her sales tax ratio, right? Something on that or not?
You know, if it goes back to the taxable value of
The property.
overall of Griggs County.
Griggs County.
So when you guys increased things and decreased things at tax equalization,
Goes up and
that's
down.
what that's.
Right.
But the biggest chunk of it is ag real estate,
Ag
so-
estate.
Right.
and we don't move that.
No.
The state sets that. so.
Our portion of control here was, even though we dropped the commercial property, the residential property is a bigger share. So we dropped the commercial property by quite a bit, 6%. It still didn't take into account the rise in residential property. So overall, we as a board raised the value of the property that we are in control of by I think about 0.5%. I mean, it worked out.
So I don't know if you guys want me to, budget a little bit higher, budget a little bit lower for historical.
No, that's fine, you can leave it where it's at.
Okay.
Because we don't know for sure where the farmland's gonna be.
Okay. Okay, next one is senior citizens. And they get, up to 2 mils.
What are they at right now, Sam? How much? On the screen?
The-
Taking a full.
Yeah,
Okay.
What was the miscellaneous income they got last year? Was that the COVID funds? No, that was 30.
No.
What was
The
that?
miscellaneous income would be,
Yeah.
well, it's probably itemized in their book somewhere, but
Meals and Wheels? No.
this would come through the county, so then that would be the,
miscellaneous income. Could be a bunch of different things. It could be the state money for the van.
Oh, okay.
It could be a combination of the state money for the van, the Meals and Wheels, refunding, a bunch of different
Yeah,
things.
no, that's fine.
Their budget here, what we give them is a small portion of their overall monies that are spent, because the state and the federal government comes in and gives them, but not enough money. So we end up supplementing what they don't get from the state and the federal.
Okay, good.
That's why we gave them and they're gonna be in trouble with this COVID thing. It's not gonna cash flow.
So they're gonna be short again this year, you're thinking?
I believe by the time everything flows through with, now they don't have people volunteering, they have not many people coming in to eat the meals. There's,
More
some-
deliveries.
There's gonna be a bunch of restrictions, and so they're gonna have to make some changes in the structures. They have to make them more friendly, or more virus resistant. The furnaces, I think, the heating systems are probably gonna have to be changed out. There's a bunch of things. And not as many people volunteering things for them also, or not as many donations.
Yeah, I might have to put an air handler in front of the furnaces.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
so if you're good with that one, we'll go on to fair. They are able to get 3/4 of a mil.
Okay.
Good with that. JDA is no longer a thing. Water board, you guys,
We can probably remove the JDA, right?
I don't do anything
The
with.
title,
Oh,
just put X's in there and we'll keep it as a
What
spare.
is what is that, by the way, just?
Job Development Authority, and that got dissolved, 4 years ago?
It's been longer,
Has it been longer?
16 or 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the water board, I did make the changes to the Upper Cheyenne.
So we're gonna levy $54,000.
Yeah, that was a lot higher than last year.
How did we come with an increase there when we cut 7,000 out of their budget? And they-
The revenue, I don't have any revenue for the miscellaneous, I only have the revenue for the mobile home penalty and interest and homestead credits.
So you don't have numbers then because I didn't give it to you, or there just won't be any?
I didn't get any.
Should there be any?
What do you
Well, we have to have that before we do the budget, of course.
The revenue miscellaneous, or what you guys think will come in for an estimated revenue for the water management? For miscellaneous income, CT2, KD1B, CT2A, Yeah, that.
Well, water board itself only has miscellaneous income. There wouldn't be any, the money they have is taxes usually unless we get a dividend of something. But KD1 would have income. Cause that's on its first year. I don't remember how much that was though. I can get that for you.
Cause that's like 30,000 difference. Not quite 30. Oh,
No, property taxes in 2021 are $42,063.
And they're showing nothing.
In what, 2022?
Yeah.
No, you have to go down to the bottom right-hand corner in parentheses.
Oh,
there
the
is
54?
54,563 would be the amount we're gonna have to levy, so it's gone up $12,000 approximately.
Yeah.
And the increase is $3,000 in legal. Is the only increase in expenses. So the
Sam, you didn't take out those Upper Cheyenne things either yet. On page 8A.
Yeah.
The Upper Cheyenne.
Sorry. Yeah.
On the
for what?
upper
I took 'em
meetings, special meetings is
Oh,
all.
this might be, oh, that's an old one, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. I don't have today's. Oh,
Okay, there's 49.6.
So I was just looking at last week's.
Is there a reason that they think their revenue is down $7,000?
what's that?
Is there a reason why they think their revenue is gonna be down?
Water board?
Yeah, $7,000?
I, no.
That would be the-
So, I suppose that would be the KD1 probably. Or not KD1, TD04. Is that even in there as a revenue?
Mm-mm, there's no revenue there at all.
Okay, so that, yeah. Do you want me to go find that number?
Well, the miscellaneous income is really the only one that could be counted towards something to offset tax levy.
Right.
Yeah, because the CT and the KD and those are drain funds and they have nothing to do with, they're their own independent.
And miscellaneous income is minimal.
Yeah.
It's interest and,
Okay.
Although the actual or the miscellaneous income in 2020 was $5,000 or $4,900.
Say that again.
The miscellaneous income in 2020
Hmm.
revenue
Yep.
was 49,1627.
where did you get that number?
That was on my audit numbers, my my revenue and expenses.
Just a quick question. The CT2A, is that, you said it's a legal drain, is that what that was all?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Cooper Tyrell 2 and
Oh, okay.
1 and 2. There were 2 different votes.
Oh, okay. And KD1B is,
Carnic drain?
that's the Carnic drain, okay, gotcha. Oh, I know.
And the city of Cooperstown drain never got made it to a vote.
Never was put
Really?
on a ballot. Never.
Okay. So, just out of curiosity, the two drains, and the landowners get extra fine, or extra things to that? Is all, do they pay for it, or how does that work?
It's like a special.
Special on it, like it?
Yep.
The people that are involved, the people that have land that lies within the outline of the drain, the drainage of the drain.
Okay.
And based on,
Their property values, I suppose, or not?
No.
No,
just on-
it's so much an acre.
So much an acre.
How many
well,
acres
so
that
much,
you have?
so
Ron?
much per acre per percentage of draining. So some acres drain 100%.
Okay.
And so it's based on how much they contribute
The
to the overall
benefit.
drain.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's maybe how that one was done.
they're all that way.
Cause I think one up in Cooper Tyrol, they figured the drain district, how much water, where your water came from and that sort of thing, and it was so much an acre.
See, so the way they did percentage wise, so obviously someone way out
Sure,
4 miles, 5 miles away from the drain, before their water got there, wouldn't make it to the drain, it'd go down into the ground and be absorbed or evaporated.
Yeah.
So that's the way most of them are done, by distance from the drain. So somebody on the drain will have 100%.
If they've got a quarter close, they'll pay on 160 acres. If you're farther away, you're gonna maybe pay on a 40% benefit, so you'll pay on 40% of your 160.
60.
but when you vote by the
You vote
benefit.
you vote your acres.
You vote your acres.
Yeah, so if you have 100 acres
100%.
included in the drain, you get 100 votes. If I have 2, I get 2 votes. It's the way that's done, because everybody in there is gonna have to pay for the drain, and the people that are paying more should have more say over what happens.
Yeah,
So a great big drain that somebody owned all the land under,
Be bad news for him. Well, not bad news, but it'd be beneficial for him, but ends up paying most of the.
well, he would be in control. So if someone owned
Yes.
50% of the land in the drain, they could say yes or no, no matter what everybody else said.
Said.
yeah.
And what does it usually typically run? Does it, per acre, you got any ideas? I
Oh, it
mean,
varies.
It does vary.
It varies.
Like 5, 10,
All depends
15
on
bucks an
the
acre,
cost
or-
of the drain was
No,
to
it's
put in.
it's based on the cost of the drain.
Oh, talking
Yeah.
green, okay, they go back that way. Okay.
Yes,
So that's what the whole levy's for, is
Okay.
how much is it gonna cost to build this drain?
yeah.
So, they get percentage wise, they get, let's take 100,000, for example.
We're getting into stuff we don't.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
fine.
just
Okay,
germane to the budget.
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
To answer your question,
I'll-
$100,000, if I own 60% of the land, I would be paid 60% of $100,000.
Got it, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
No, valid question. And the management is after that. So the management is on a yearly basis to maintain the drain.
Sorry.
Everybody good with the water board's budget?
Oh, man.
Yep.
Well, there's $9,000 here. Increase.
You know,
Could,
Do you want me to put a number in the miscellaneous income?
well, no, that doesn't help any, that's just fictitious.
Put a big one.
I mean, he's right, I mean,
Just
so
put a big one.
the legal fees, why are the legal fees gonna be higher now? I mean, they're projecting
More.
more, you know, Connie? Why they're projecting more, is there something coming up that is gonna,
I don't think so, so.
Yeah, I don't either.
know why they increased it, just because it had gone up in the past, I guess.
probably because they overspent their budget the last year.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. and
On the legal
it
end.
is,
Yeah, by double.
but I mean, that was justified because of the projects they're doing, they're done with all those projects. I think we should drop the legal fees to balance the budget. They just settled did they pay the Silver Creek legal fees, or they just arrived at a price?
They paid
Okay, so that's done, so there really shouldn't be,
And that came out of
3
petitioner's
counties.
money, didn't it?
Well,
No.
no, that had been spent by the time the last legal fees were received, but those were divided among the 3 counties. So Griggs County paid their share.
more than their agreed upon share.
So what you bring it down to?
Well, if you drop the legal fees down to make up the difference between last year's budget and this year's budget, you would.
So put them at 6,000 is what you're thinking? That would,
Whatever it took to,
that
whatever.
would take 9,000 out of there, and that would get them to about what they were last year.
Mhm. I mean, it's just kind of hard here because we don't have we don't have the actual expenditures for 20, and which is an important part of doing the budgeting. How much did they actually spend? We know that the estimated 2021 is, we use 100%, but how much were actually spent?
In 2020.
Yeah.
Or where are they at now? You have any idea? Are they over, but you said they spent
No, they're
20?
under budget.
They're under budget for this year, and the thing's being done.
Well, I shouldn't say that, they're probably still over on legal, but everything else is under.
You want the actuals? Okay, so their bookkeeping doesn't go through the county, so I wouldn't take it out of engineering, and I wouldn't take it out of all these things. Oh, that's what you mean.
That's what I mean,
Okay.
so these line items that they request are not the actual monies, how the monies are spent.
Mhm.
Yet we don't have a comparison actually what they actually spend to what they're requesting is what,
Right.
you know, so they're guesstimating that they're gonna spend at the end of the year all of it, that they budgeted last year or whatever.
I mean, let's use a special meetings fund. I doubt if you look back at what they spent this year, if there was $5,000 spent on special meetings. It doesn't mean the money wasn't spent, but it was spent somewhere for something else, which is not the way that the budgeting is supposed to be done. We oversee the spending of the money. We need to know where the money is going to be spent beforehand, rather than just giving a lump sum. But, given that, because of the financial disarray the water board was in because of these projects, we've kind of turned a blind eye to that and given Connie and Tom and everybody the ability to get things straightened out, which they have done pretty effectively. Compared to what it was. Well, there's no comparison to what it was. It actually makes some sense now when it's working towards being viable again, which it wasn't going to be. So that's why this doesn't match. That's why we don't have a lot of oversight. It's because we can't.
So should we drop, requested for 2022, to $6,000, I'd get us $9,000 back, that's about what they were.
What are you wanting to drop?
The legal regular, I think is what they're talking about, is expected to be 15,000, if we drop that to, drop that to 6.
Or
You said they-
special meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, we could take, maybe that's a,
I don't know what equipment that the water board would be involved in purchasing.
There hasn't been, I think the only equipment we bought was the laptop
Yeah.
since I started.
so should we drop the equipment to 500?
Mhm.
I don't know enough to say anything.
And we'll take the special meetings down to 2,500. That'd get us to about $3,000, and then we'll take another 6, so we'll put regular legal at 9. That'd get us there.
Oh my gosh. I did 90.
I think that's something we can work with.
So you're bringing legal down to 6 and
To 9.
special,
To
oh,
nine.
to
To
9, all right.
And the special meetings cut in half
And
to
equipment.
2,500, and
Equipment.
equipment at 500.
That upper Cheyenne's got that.
So reduce the overall requested to 48,299.68.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
pretty.
see, upper Cheyenne gauge.
Say that again?
So that you discount.
Oh, then we do have the Upper Cheyenne
This
meeting.
one.
Huh? Yeah, this one.
Oh, no, she doesn't have it in the final appropriation.
No, doesn't up there.
Where was it here? Where
And
was
then,
that
and
16?
then it'll go
Right
to
there.
See, it's not over in the final column.
But let's see where that changes this.
Okay?
But he was working off this. He's trying to make the,
Never mind.
he's trying to make the levy balance, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
49. I need 2 screens.
Actually, that'd be under budgeting what they did last year.
Yeah, they're $1,400 different from what they requested.
Yeah.
Or they're estimated from last year to this year, so.
Because I was working with the requested, with all the Upper Cheyenne stuff in it,
Yeah.
I guess. And we're gonna get,
36.
you know, even if we take $1,000 out of legal, they're still the same.
Okay, so you're gonna
Y-
take.
You were gonna
equipment.
cut them 9,000,
Yeah,
you know, I don't know if they need that hard.
okay.
This is, okay, say that again.
I just working with the requested and not the appropriated. Because you had the requested, still had the,
Yeah,
Well,
it's
it all
still,
depends what you're chasing. Are you chasing the $250,000 deficit, or are you chasing?
Yeah.
You're supposed to be chasing.
sure
yeah,
enough.
So if the
Well, I-
9,000 doesn't get us there, but it gets us going.
gets
in the
us
right
somewhere,
direction.
yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Of what I'm hearing, I don't think so either.
Sam, take that.
So the number is what, 40
That
something?
1,600 was still in there on that,
So
in
it'd be
the
48
requested
48,000,
2020.
right?
I do.
The requested amount doesn't matter.
40,000 requested last year.
Yeah.
Here's what the requested
Requested this year. I mean, add these up would be different, of course, now, right?
Yep.
Be less.
No,
And
this,
those-
this is requested,
Yeah.
so this is what they dropped it down to. Here's what was
Actual expenses.
in the actual budget.
Budget, yeah.
In 2021. Here's when we started the process at
36.
47, that we cut out,
Oh, F36.
we cut out,
46, never mind.
Okay, I was
Wait.
like, oh,
this, we got cut out,
Yeah,
and the
correct.
Upper Cheyenne dues got cut out, that's how we got to this number.
That
And
number.
now Mark's working on.
So you're looking at
49,600.
Oh, that's, okay.
See, and then we'd be
What
down to
expense?
40,000.
40,600,
Smaller
I
version.
think
Okay.
that should be worth a
Okay.
try.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
okay,
You'd be to $40,600.
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Instead of 49,600, I mean 49,000, basically, yeah,
Expenses are 40,600. Yep.
okay, I got that.
Okay, so I gotta write this in here.
Okay.
Okay, good with that?
Everybody good with tentative 40,600 for water board?
Yep.
So we'll go on to the ambulance.
There again, they get a certain amount of mail, don't they?
They do.
Okay.
Okay with the ambulance library.
Library gets 4 mils.
The ambulance gets 1 mil, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. I think the library gets 4. don't they?
4 mil.
Up to.
Up to 4 mil.
This one has always garnered a certain amount of debate. The library is set up so they don't have to, by statute, they don't have to use any monies that they don't spend, carryover monies. So if we give them 90,000,
Yep.
or $69,000 this year, if they don't spend any of it, they can come back to us next year and say we want another 69,000. And we can't say, no, you have to use the money that we gave you last year first, and then we'll make up the difference. So there's always been a certain number of people that have looked at that and said, well, does it make any sense that the library has $150,000 in their check, in their savings account, and we're still levying dollars towards it?
They do.
So you're one of the people that would ask that question, and some people say, well, yeah, but they might need it for future projects, and they do good for the community and leave their money alone. So I don't exactly know, because they don't give us a breakdown of their financing when they ask for the budget, do they, Sam?
Well, back here, right?
Hmm?
That's the expenses.
Expenses,
That's
expenses,
expenses.
expenses in the back.
Projected expenses.
Okay.
If you notice over in the far left-hand corner there, you don't see what their actual expenses were.
No.
Mhm.
There's nothing there.
So at certain, it's a public entity, so I haven't looked at it for a long time, but at times there's $150,000 in surplus monies there, and a lot of people believe that the library is necessary, but it should operate on the same way the rest of the taxpayer-funded entities do.
That, and they kind of, with the mills, they collect 2 for the bookmobile, which they don't run anymore.
Yeah, it's
It's
been
a vote, it's a vote for 2 mills for the library and 2 mills for the bookmobile.
They don't operate the bookmobile anymore, but they still collect the 2 mills.
Oh.
So that, we have this discussion every year. Usually when we have this discussion in the meeting, by the second time we have the discussion, it's full of people that don't agree with what we were discussing. So. Personally, I think that should be run the same as we run the other entities, or manage the other entities, that money just sitting there should be used first, and then the taxpayer should make up the difference. No one ever said that the library wasn't needed, it just that it doesn't need to have.
I wonder if they don't do that because they do their own fundraisers.
They do.
And get money from the public, and if they,
Yeah.
they commingle those funds though, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, but so does the fair board, and
Well.
so does the,
yeah.
so does the museum, and there's other entities that do that also.
And then they get, and so does the museum, they get a fair amount of money from memorials and
Yeah.
those sorts
Yeah, we
of
do.
things, you know.
And full disclosure, I'm on the board, too, so everybody knows that. so.
No. I mean, it's not trying to be mean to anybody, it's just trying to bring everything out in the open so we know where this money's been spent. And again,
Sure.
a lot of people, there's real strong feelings on both sides of this issue. But if you wanna kick a hornet's nest, talk about defunding or cutting funding for the library, the hornets will show up.
It's kind of a sacred cow, is it not?
One thing about the library budget is that they are the taxable value of the county less Cooperstown, because Cooperstown has it in their budget to fund a little bit of the library.
Yeah, maybe
So
a little
it's-
more.
No, they do it, no.
I don't think so.
No, well, it all depends on how you wanna do it. By number of people, they do way less per person
Yeah.
but by taxable value, they don't have a mill levy, right? They just give a set amount. So Cooperstown agreed to just a set amount, so they just give them $10,000 or $12,000. The rest of the county gives 4 mills, 80, gonna be almost $100,000 this year. So, it isn't a fair system. It never has been. It was one of those things where Cooperstown was supposed to vote on it, set up a a regular mill levy for it, and they never did. They just
When-
gave a dollar amount.
From what I understand, when it first started, the front part of the library was the cities, and the back part of the library was the counties. You know, that kind of a deal. And then they, like you say, they got to put the two together now, and they don't have the bookmobile and all those sorts of things. I'm just telling you what a little bit of history I know of it.
But if you want to have more information, table their levy and they'll come and tell you.
And unfortunately, through the state, if they don't get X amount of dollars, the 4 mills or whatever it is.
So it was
Yeah.
always told to me that they have to get the 4 mills, and then
That's
this
untrue.
this this past year they didn't get the 4
Yeah,
mills.
yeah.
But it just has to be the amount that
The
was
dollar amount.
the
has to
dollar
be the
amount
same.
as last year or more to get their grant funds.
Mm.
But that's based on the 2 mills that they're entitled to, not the 2 bookmobile mills. So that's why it's always been not true, because the bookmobile was federal dollars, and then they put that into mill levies, but it's 2 mills is what or the dollar equivalent.
Mm.
I don't know about that, but all I know is that it doesn't have to be exactly the 4
No.
mills. Because I've gotten my butt dragged by Bonnie a few times. And that's where I say, like, the program will cut you off. You can't increase, you can only decrease. And my program it'll cut me off at 4 mills, but there's times it doesn't and I can't increase, and she doesn't get that full 4 mills. And oh yeah, I get a phone call.
Will everybody want to approve this or poke them with a stick?
I'm not poking. I'd have to do some digging first and
Yeah.
researching and.
Well, if you wanna save $80,000 and $250, there it lays.
Right.
And then after that, you are gone through the budget.
Can I ask a question?
Mhm.
In the general budget, there's also a line for emergency medical, and that amount goes to the ambulance too.
Yes.
Why is that in both 2 places? I've always wondered.
To overcome the mill levy limit on the ambulance.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
By statute, you could only levy the 1 mill.
Mm.
Although, the legislature's changed that where we could levy for an emergency ambulance service up to 10 mills now.
So we got another $241,000 to go.
Out of just the general fund.
That's overall.
No, that's overall.
No, it's more correctly out of funds that we levy for. So it encompasses E and
Okay.
none of C.
And I did talk to the city about our special assessments, and those are not going to come, next year. They have deferred them. Let's see what year she said to me.
I probably should defer them to when the end of the current special assessments are done. 27? No, 4 years, 2026, I
2025.
bet. They'll pay interest on the money. Yeah, estimates are gonna be higher, but, good Lord.
I'm gonna move on. We haven't looked at the sheriff's. It's B19.
So she didn't increase anything on the bottom, but at the top, that is the reflective of that percentage increase that we had discussed at the last meeting.
What are we looking at?
B19.
B19. Collect bingo.
So, it may be a dumb question, but I see you've got $2,000 for uniforms. You know, kind of a small county. Would you rather just go shirts and not worry about the pants and people can wear jeans, or how do you feel?
I think we should be more uniform,
Okay,
but I'm not sure in the past what our spending was on that. And you know, with stuff like that and the travel and all them numbers, I'd rather wait till next year to look at them after I've been here a year to honestly see where they are,
sure,
if that.
sure.
Did those uniforms include the vest that was expensive, or was that just a uniform itself? Oh.
I don't know what he took that out of. I think he took that out, I don't know.
He,
And then as they expire, we try to replace them, because they do have an expiration date on
5
them.
years. Sam, what did we take the vest out of? Shane's vest?
COVID.
That's right.
Oh.
oh, yes.
And hopefully if we get someone hired this year, we're gonna have that expensive uniforms.
That's what I was kind of saying. I think in the past they used to just wear jeans, but if you feel more comfortable with that.
It's kind of
got
the
so much.
half a dozen to 1/6 of the other. They cost the same. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Hourly is the overtime. Is that correct?
Hourly, what is it? hourly?
Hourly.
Yep,
so
that's overtime.
Overtime.
Correct.
Are you using quite a bit of the overtime budget now when you're short? Is that?
No, I'm
No.
just covering my old shift and my new shift, so no. But if Shane has to cover more, then he will get overtime.
What's the likelihood are you thinking us getting one this year?
If
When
we
do the
did-
cadets graduate?
It would be like right at the end of the year,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's what I would suspect too.
Unless, you know, crazy things could happen, the perfect person could walk in the door, but
And Minneapolis could defund the police and we'd have all those folks coming this way.
they'd love to come to Cooperstown. Where is it?
But there again, then, so from now till the end of the year, we'd also have Deputy 1 salary to work. So when you're full staffed, what would you use overtime for then?
Court, a lot of times, if somebody has to take off. Generally, right now, if someone takes off, we do our best to switch. If we
Okay.
can't switch, then we pay overtime.
Okay.
Well, ask the question.
Get paid.
If they're hired on a monthly basis, how do they get overtime? We always ask that question. See, an hourly overtime would indicate that you're working by the hour. A monthly salary indicates that you are just that, working on a monthly salary. So that overtime doesn't work in those two scenarios. Either you're paid by the month or you're paid by the hour. And how does it work? So when you're paid by the month, you just work 8 hours a day. Is that how it works? How do you decide when they're on overtime?
We do it if you work extra shifts, more than your monthly shifts, which would be 16 shifts. So
Right,
if you
which
work an
is-
extra
How long is
shift,
the shift?
between 12 and 24 hours.
Okay, so how?
We have 24-hour shifts, we have 12-hour shifts.
Right, so it must be broke down to an hourly basis.
Ours isn't, no.
Well then,
To work those shifts, I suppose, is what you're saying.
Well, it's
Yeah.
kind of the same with the road department. They have
Mhm. Shifts.
overtime and they get paid.
They're hourly.
they're by.
We
the
were
hour.
hourly,
Yeah.
did
They are
that,
by the hour.
you'd see it.
But this one's always been that way, and I always ask the same question, and I always get different answers, but nothing ever changes.
What do you mean nothing changes?
Well, I have, okay, in my business, I have people that work by the month.
Mm-hmm.
I have people that work by the hour. The people that work by the month, if they put in more hours, they don't get paid extra. If they put in less hours, they don't get paid less. The people that work by the hour, if they put in more hours than the 40, the standard overtime, they get paid overtime.
So your monthly have no standards, so you could work them 24 hours a day and they're not, no
They're-
shifts
they're
or?
ba- That's almost all monthly standards are. If you agree on, you do the work that needs to be done, and if it gets to a point where there's too much work that needs to be done, then we make adjustments there, but it almost always.
So what are them
works out.
adjustments?
What's that?
What are them adjustments if there's too many hours, too much work?
Then we cut back on the workload.
Okay, cause like right now, we're running 2 people, obviously 24 hours
Yeah.
a day, 7 days a week. I mean, that
Well,
should
they're on
be
call.
an
Yeah.
adjustment.
They're on call.
Yeah.
Or we're working, like this weekend, I
Yeah.
probably got 8 hours of sleep, so I would say that's
A
lot of hours.
Again, I just
So
asked-
maybe there should
I
be
just
some
asked the
adjustments
question.
made. Good idea.
I just
I
asked the
like that.
question.
Thanks, John.
there's no need to get that way. I asked the question on how do you determine between overtime or hourly wage and a salary? I've always
Right,
asked
and I
that
don't know
question.
if anything here in this county has ever been set, like in writing, I don't know. Because,
Are they calling them salaried employees when they're actually hourly employees? And
So it's the way it was set up when I got here for all payroll was if you were full time, you had a set salary in the system for the amount of hours that you're here. If you go over and above the regular, you get the overtime. So that it just makes payroll pretty easy. You know, you just get the same thing every pay period, and that's just how it is. So it was a set salary for the set hours.
it's agreement on that.
Yeah, and so then that's just kind of how it is. So then
And
that's
anything
how
above that agreed upon salary.
yeah. So then that's the sheriff's office still. Everybody else has been switched to the hourly, you know, because a week might be different days or, you know, so
Right.
then now everybody else is or hourly in there besides the elected officials, and then the sheriff's department is still the set salary for the amount of hours that they work.
Which is the description of an hourly salary. VQ, that's the whole purpose
which
of
if
it.
we wanted to turn in our hours, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
It's hard because when you say you got an exempt employee, it's like
Yeah.
whether you work 36
And-
hours or 56 hours,
And
you
to
get
be
paid the same.
honest, John, since I've taken
But-
over, I've been in their office several times actually trying to figure out how it works.
Right.
Because-
I've been
No,
here
and I get
7
it.
years and I can't figure it out.
No, I get it, and I have been trying to figure it out so I can honestly do the timesheets correct and know what it is, but.
Well, there
And
is
it's
no
not
correct.
Sam's fault, because
The-
she says too, well, I've tried to talk to this past one, and it's never really been figured out.
So whenever I have a question about the sheriff's office, I've always
I know,
deterred them
but
to
I
the
mean, if
sheriff.
you just read
We've
the
even-
definition of an hourly employee and a salaried employee, it's pretty
Right.
self-explanatory, and we're trying to do a hybrid of both.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We've even figured out, I got some staff that are exempt employees that tend to work over 40, kind of like, okay, I'm gonna exempt you at usually a higher rate, to give you a bit of a higher rate because of it. But that's something they can revisit as to how to figure that.
Yes.
Because it's hard to have both. You can't be salaried and then be like, okay, so my set schedule is this. You know, I work 34 this week and 45 this week, and then I picked up this shift for so-and-so this week, but now I get paid overtime. But last week I only worked 34 or 32. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a...
Well,
I
then
got
you throw in
10.
the elected officials. So the elected official isn't elected for a certain amount of hours. They're
Right.
elected to do the job at hand.
Right,
So that's where it throws another curveball into this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, that's hard.
So, if the overtime, and maybe I'm wrong here, but if the overtime is for when there's court,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't all of our court system turned over to the state? Or is it just the recorder?
Just
Just the clerk.
Just the clerk?
Yep, it's just funding for clerk services.
So we still have to
Separate
supply
entity, yeah, they're an
safety
entirely
and-
separate entity, yep.
and those sorts of things.
Because they have a contract with the county for the clerk services, but that's just part of their duties to be part of court for services.
So, yeah, if we could get that figured out collectively, that'd be wonderful.
excuse me.
And
Well-
for the deputies, if we want their hours, I'll definitely turn in their hours.
No,
But if
you're
I
missing the point. It's,
Would-
no matter how we figure it out, it isn't gonna increase the amount of money that's budgeted to the office.
Well,
It's
no,
how
but
that- It's how that money is delegated is what we should have in place. Now, I'm not, this is not intended towards you, but in past sheriffs, we've had sheriffs themselves that have worked not only on their salary, but collected an hourly wage. And that flies in the face of the whole elected official. You're elected for the position, not for the time you put into the position.
Right, and I'm not saying it to get more money or anything, I'm saying it to have an honest answer.
Well, it doesn't, I just would like an answer. I wasn't gonna change anything. It wasn't going to
Well, and I'm not
increase-
saying to change something, I'm saying you want an answer and I want an answer. I've been asking. So it's not about trying to get more money, John, it's about trying to understand how we get paid. You wanna know, I wanna know, maybe Connie wants to know.
If you could tell me that you would cover all the needs for the policing with the 3 people in the sheriff's department, and the needs would be covered, because that's what you're assuring the citizens of Griggs County. There's no use having the hourly wage. Throw it all into the pot and split it up and have a true salaried employee. And no matter what has to happen, it gets covered. That would be preferable.
For elected and for the deputies?
Again, don't know how that's how I would cover it if I was running it, but I'm not. Because then there's no discretion. It's you because you delegate authority. You delegate when and where they work. So if you do it equitably, it doesn't matter if they get overtime or not. You would work them so that they
Right,
work even.
but then if we wanna, then we should talk about fairness a little bit, cause if you look at their hours compared to a 40-hour work week, it's insane. So I don't think they could do all that for the $40,000 they make. If we were to turn in our hours and be hourly, it would be incredible. So I don't think
So
not having a little bit of overtime
But I mean, so I
would
was
be
saying,
fair
I
to
was saying
somebody who's
throwing the money
working all
in.
them hours.
I was saying throwing the split the $12,000 3 ways and add it to the salary.
Okay,
Is what I was saying.
gotcha, okay.
And then you would delegate when they work, as long as we don't hear any feedback from the deputies pissed off because one works more than the other, it would
No,
solve the
you
whole
wouldn't
thing.
do that. I would be up for that.
Well, guess what? You're the elected
12,000.
official, or not, or gonna be the elected official, you get to propose that when you are.
Is that an adjustment you'd like to make?
Yes.
So.
No,
what are
I
your
would,
thoughts then?
absolutely.
When
That could go right to the
you are the elected
deputies.
official, you get to propose and ask for that change, if you want.
Yes, let's
So-
propose that
But you can't do it yet.
and ask for that change.
You can't do it yet.
Then we'll cut that out.
Right?
There won't be nothing to divide.
Oh, I'll.
Go for that one.
Because it's the overtime budget typically spent in its entirety.
No.
No,
Depends on the
but
sheriff.
that would be a way of giving an increase in salary
Right.
without increasing the overall.
The levy amount, you know.
Yeah.
Should we ask the sheriff's department?
Okay, so the one of the changes that was made from, you know, what you guys seen last week is Sheriff Michaelis would like to take that 12,000, divide it in between the deputies on her requested amount. That did not get done in this one, so.
Yep.
There you
Do what? Oh,
go.
I'm slow, not that.
Well done, Sam, well done.
I missed the zone on there.
She said she forgot to put it on here, so she requested to divide the 2 between the 2 deputies.
Oh.
That salary, so just.
That didn't get done on this one, sorry.
She'll do it on the
That's
next
been
one.
recorded a zillion times.
You don't wanna go there.
How does that work? Let's say we're talking like this and somebody wants to change it, or they decide they don't change it. What are the steps to do that?
Change what?
Like this, like she would like to take that hourly salary off and add it to the other 2. How do you do that step?
Well, see-
She would come to you and ask you to amend the budget.
The department heads
Okay.
put forward the budget in a format
Yep.
that we put forward, but they can modify. So it would just be, you come and say, I think it should be done this way. I'm not asking for any more dollars. I'm just gonna delegate authority differently, and I want the ability to swap this around. But then there wouldn't be an hourly salary available if you needed it, but it would already be to the deputies and the sheriff in order to cover when they worked more than,
Okay.
So I can ask you that now?
don't think so, but I think right now you are working at the, I'm not sure, you'd have to ask Jamie. I think right now you're working because you were appointed
He's here.
Interim.
Are you there, Jamie?
at the,
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, Jamie. So, if the sheriff, the appointed sheriff wants to change, do away with the hourly wage and move it over to the deputies' wages, then does she have the ability to do that before she's elected, that when she's appointed now, or is she just filling out the term of the sheriff that left? And so is she obligated to the county commission, or is she obligated to the citizens?
I think she's, without researching, I think she's obligated to the citizens.
Okay.
I don't think, once the appointment is made for a non-expired term, I don't think that the sheriff's, or the commission, I don't think that she can be unappointed.
No, you're right about that. Yeah.
So she would be working for the citizens, not for the commission. Or
Okay.
not, I shouldn't say, I guess in my opinion, you're still working for the commission, but she's not at the pleasure of the commission, she is at the request of the citizens.
Appointed by the commission, yep, sounds good. So if that's the case, then there's going to be a raise, basically, because you don't spend all of the $12,000. So can we, in order to keep this, on par, can we put the deputies and your raise on par with what the commission wants to give the rest of the employees, and then add that $4,000 into that salary? So rather than getting to 5% and then adding the 12,000 to that, can we drop it down so it's the same as whatever they agreed to the raise for the rest of the employees? So we don't have to have this two-tiered system. So in essence, the total will still be higher.
Right, so I figured you would just take the raises out total from the sheriff's office and
No,
then
they'd
just.
have to go in first and then add the hourly to it. So we wouldn't be adjusting the overall total of the sheriff's department. We would drop whatever that 2.8% raise, which I don't agree with, but I think that's what's gonna happen here.
You had to get that in there.
I can't remember a lot of things, but, and then add the $4,000 to the salary and do away at the line item for the hour, is what I understood.
Did we also discuss?
4,000 per person.
Did we also discuss
And then
taking
do
money out of
away with the
COVID fund
overtime.
at one time? For that?
Well, we gotta get
I
there
don't
first.
think-
We
we'll
got a
get-
lot.
I don't, that money is meant to buy down.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Is that on your special deputy? How much do you have on your special deputy? Because if you have to have somebody come over and help and cover.
Sam, if the prior sheriffs had to have a different county come over and help cover,
Yes.
I have, yeah.
Yeah, that's my question, yeah.
where does that come out of?
Yeah.
Overtime? I'm not sure.
Or do you have a special deputy line?
I know at one time, the only time I'm aware of is when we had the fourth deputy, and they were supposed to be split 20 or 50-50. When he would come and work for us over the 50%, they would just make it up the next time working for Finland for Steele County. But that's the
Well,
only
and
one I know
that's-
of.
No, but
Kind of
say,
what- I'm sorry.
I know Shane has gone and filled in over at Foster County when he's been working here. When
They
he's,
pay him
yeah, then they pay him, but she's wondering where that,
Yeah.
money yeah.
if that comes out of the overtime.
If something would happen.
Let's ask before you hire
Well, it's, it's a valid point.
Yeah, while we're running to.
Okay.
Right. So if you need a raise to come
Yeah.
over.
Well, that would still be in the budget for this, to finish out this year, it's just going forward, so.
Oh, you don't very often have to borrow from another county and hire out to fill shifts, do you? If we have three?
No, just now, if
Full-time
there's
people?
two of us and
Yeah.
something would happen and we
Then-
need someone to come over.
And
If Shane is deployed or something, there has to,
Or
And
if, God
his-
forbid, have a big murder.
Drill, yeah.
Let's hope we don't have that.
Then I'd hate to be stuck at 0,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As long as nobody ever got sick and nobody had any other plans, ever took a vacation, would be perfect.
But don't you also have a special?
Stay home.
But you can hire a special deputy in those emergency situations, can't you? So that
Yeah.
falls under that too.
Hmm.
Let's hope none of that happens.
Now we really got into something, John.
No.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
It would be nice to not have to deal with overtime. It's,
Especially, yeah. Because I've been trying to figure out for 3 weeks how the pay works, to be honest.
I put as many of my staff exempt as I possibly could legally, because it works a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're called, when you're at home, at night, day, whatever. How you count those hours?
So the 2022 budget is roughly
I know.
26,000 more than what we actually spent in 2020, correct? Something like that?
Mm-hmm. 29,000.
29? And
Okay, you can see where the where the differences are. Fuel's a big one.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uniforms, teletype and intoxicator, Lizer. Well, you can see where the differences are there.
yeah.
Are these new radios that are, those new state radios, where is that gonna come, what budget is that gonna fall onto?
Sam, has he mentioned that in the past?
Travis? Hmm?
No.
The West, I think Jamie,
Because that is a big deal.
Yeah. That'll probably be a grant of some
I
sort.
think so. Hey Jamie,
Did the legislature appropriate the money for this biennium?
That's probably something that we need to look at. I know there's going to be about a half, 50% payment grant, but the rest of it may be coming from the county. I'm actually glad that was brought up because I haven't taken a look at an emergency management budget, and I don't know about the sheriff's department.
Has anybody got a ballpark on what the number's gonna be?
About $1,500 per radio, the way it sounds. At least that's the estimate.
How did you estimate that? Were you using the old analog prices? We put them in the aircraft here a while ago and they were 500% higher than the analog radios.
Okay, then that was numbers that I had gotten through emergency management.
Huh.
But I could be wrong.
No, the analog radios in the aircraft were about 1,800 and the digital radios to comply were 9,000.
Wow.
Okay.
But maybe not, maybe just aircraft. Put aircraft on anything that costs more money.
I think they're like $3,500, weren't they, Jamie? And then
That's what I thought. That's what's been relayed to me.
That make more sense.
in the grant, they pay for $1,500 or whatever it is.
Oh.
That's
Come up with
what
this.
I have been hearing. Is they're around $3,000 with about a 50% grant
Yeah.
of $1,500.
In 2024, I think, is when they're gonna come into online, everybody.
Wayne's right about that. It's I guess what we've done in Nelson County for the budget is just put a third of it or half of it aside right now in the budget to make sure that we have at least the start of a fund for it, so we don't have to write it off all at one time.
Any idea how many radios are involved?
There's 3 in emergency management, and I would guess 3 or 4 with the sheriff's department.
I don't think we need it in the sheriff's budget. That's,
That's,
when we allocate it there, those monies, we don't know what to spend, it's stuck there. That's why we have that emergency fund in the
Yeah.
general reserve. So that it can serve multi-purposes.
they just had a line item, it's radios and repeaters, so.
Right. So if you need an hourly, why don't you just leave 3,000 in the hourly and put 333 on each salary, starting from the old increase and be done?
That's higher than what you were
3 would
asking.
probably be enough for the overtime, I would think. It's just hard for me to say because I don't know in the
Because
past.
Would you still call it overtime,
You
or
know,
would you call
when we
that?
asked Steele County to cover, obviously they cover, we cover, it's just kind of an understand, we don't necessarily have to pay each other to help each other, it's just if something would happen. But I would think 3 would probably be enough of a cushion.
You just trade back and forth.
Yeah, in a pinch, like, can you watch a phone for an hour, 2 hours, you know, whatever.
And the travel where we went from 300 to 3,000, is there, do you have a reason why you think you're gonna have more travel or more training, I suppose?
I plan on going.
Yeah, it's a,
No, I'm not sure when that got increased.
you know,
I don't think it's ever been increased. I think they just didn't spend it in 2020.
okay. Cause I was gonna suggest to drop that to $1,000, it'd still be 3 times what you've spent. That be all right?
Mm-hmm.
15, can you go 1,500?
Yeah, usually I'm not done yet. And then publishing and printing, it was only $21. You know, and you got for 500, could we go with $250 for
Yeah, you
publishing?
could do, yeah.
And then,
Well, let's go back to the travel.
yeah, well, I'll get there too yet. And then, for dues, usually they're pretty standard. I see they're at 515. Can we put that $600 and get near $200 there? Does that make sense?
What's the past been on that?
515,
That's what was
Mhm.
actually spent in 2020.
yeah.
And what's that all for?
I don't know.
Hopefully we don't get more dues.
Guns, magazines.
Well, dues are at the discretion of the,
Right.
But I mean,
that's
they're
all
usually
covered.
set from one year to the next.
no, but she said hopefully we don't get more dues. Dues are at the
Yeah.
discretion of you. You don't have
Yeah.
to pay any dues if you don't want
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
That's a discretionary. So I
What
was-
did, what did you propose on the dues?
So the
600.
dues were at 515 and we would lower it, and you projected at 800, we'd lower it to 600, a couple $100, kind of a deal. So you'd still be over what you had spent in 2020, which I would
You're
think.
nickeling and diming.
I am nickeling and diming.
We're trying to get as both of you both.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay, the intoxilator or whatever.
that I don't think, well, okay, I'll shut up.
No?
Go
no,
ahead.
No, what are you?
I
are you-
just, you know, you go
Are we gonna
ahead.
need one? Are we gonna need, or how
Oh,
does
yeah,
that work?
We need one,
What did
Okay.
you been printing to?
because otherwise we have to pay to go use
What
someone
did we
else's.
printing
Okay.
to?
Okay, and that's what you figured in here?
Might be when they run ads.
I left it the
How
same.
much?
We spent
Oh, would they
$1,100
move it
in
to?
2020 and we have budgeted $3,200.
250.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Two.
Do you have 2019?
2020, you mean?
No.
I
That's
know,
what we
but I
want.
wanna go back.
Oh,
more
another
just
year?
to
One more
see.
year, yeah.
So I don't get caught in a pinch, like, oh, well,
Well,
every 2 years you need to do double.
my
You
proposal
know.
was just taking 1,000 out of it, so you'd still be at 2,200, you'd still be at twice as much as what you spent last year.
Let me see what she's got for 19.
Okay,
Cause that's something we can't go without, so I do not
Yeah,
wanna
yeah.
get in a pinch with that.
Yeah.
Which one?
The teletype and
Oh,
toxic.
So in
what is
19,
that? Just
uh,
new machines?
in 19 you spent, actually spent was 1,243.
Dollars to buy that.
Well, the same as.
Buy more.
And this year was
220.
about
How
the
that
same.
works?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And this would still leave you at twice as what you
Yeah.
spent in the last 2 years, so
What did
that
you
would
take?
drop another 1,000. So you'd be at 2,200,
What did you take that down to?
2,200.
No, but that should be like, just for maintenance and stuff, the more we use it, the more the cost shouldn't go up, you know what I mean? It's not like it's
And,
a per use. Right. That makes sense. It's like yearly maintenance.
What else do you guys think?
No, we send it. Usually the steel, or we take steel.
Well, there's 600 spent on uniforms and they have 2,000 budgeted.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And you bought uniforms in 2020 because that's when, or was it 20?
Shane needs to order some, he actually only got.
Oh, the
since
leftovers?
Yeah.
And y'all not the same size?
Yeah.
No, in all honesty though, for that,
Yep.
like upcoming
Yep.
with the vests and stuff,
I think.
like if we get a new guy this year, is the vest gonna come out of that, or would
I
that
think-
come out of something
I
else?
think we've done vests out of something else.
We've done it out of equipment, but that vest Shane got came out of the COVID.
COVID.
Yeah.
But in the
CARES
future, I'd
Act.
hate to cut and then I can't get a vest,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Well,
cause
no,
mine
we're
will
not.
expire soon.
So I'd even looked at even just taking that
Hello?
down 500, which would be
I kinda
Yeah,
feel like we should
1,500.
leave that.
You called Sam.
2,000. Okay.
That one makes me nervous with
Okay.
equipment that we need, safety, I just don't wanna cut
Do you
on
want to stay on
safety.
this one or do you want to go to the other one?
And
Okay.
repairs and maintenance. That's probably gonna be pretty close. Radio.
What did you do for travel? I'm sorry.
We're coming back to that one.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What are your guys' feelings? Those were some of mine.
Training and travel,
Yep.
don't be too alarmed, will increase because we haven't done training. And
Okay.
in this job, we need training.
Yeah.
Where do you
Agreed.
usually go, Amber, when you do that?
Bismarck
Okay.
or Devil's Lake, sometimes they have free
Okay.
classes, but we can't go without training. And we haven't done training hardly at all. We are required to do, I think it's 80 hours every 3 years.
You know, and you've got
But in this job, I'd hate to be caught not training and have a liability.
you've got about $1,400 more than what was spent last year in training and equipment.
But we
And then
didn't train.
then you have, if you propose, like what my proposal was, of taking $1,000 out of the travel, you'd still have 2,000 or 1,700 more than what you've ever spent last year.
Right, but we didn't train.
Yes, I understand that. I
Which we
understand.
need
Are
to
most
do.
classes free? Training classes free?
Oh, some of them are,
Some, yeah.
yeah.
And how far do you have to go for those? Is it a day
Bismarck
thing?
generally,
Is it a day thing or is it a weekend thing or what do you?
just depends on the class. Some of them
Oh.
are days, some of them are weekend.
Sure,
Some
Sure.
are even online now, which is really nice.
there you go.
But that's one thing I hesitate to change just because
Yep.
anything happens, we don't have the training, doesn't look good. Why haven't
Yep,
you done the
yep.
training,
No, absolutely.
you know?
I think taking $1,000 out of the travel thing would still leave plenty in there, I would think.
So that would be a 2,000?
How
Yeah,
about 500 for this year?
well, we'll see what comes to at the end here.
So
I think
all
that's a
them
fair-
cuts we're getting in a raise?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's fair. I think that what I proposed there.
Okay, so let me go through
What about
this.
the fuel, Amber, what do you think of that? It's worth
Well, I
2,000,
think-
see it.
I checked with Sam on our
Yeah,
fuel for the last few years and it seems to be within budget.
okay,
I know that when Wesley had put in our budget for this year, he increased the fuel, which is why I checked,
okay.
but I didn't really see a reason why he increased it, so.
Fuel's going up, of course, that's the issue, you know,
Mhm.
I don't know.
See, the thing is,
We were
too,
well
though,
within,
you
so
gotta
I think we
remember
should be
is that
okay.
I don't believe you don't pay state highway tax, do you? I don't think our state, our
Not
local,
supposed to.
yeah, we're not supposed to, so. we're
I mean,
supposed to be exempt.
fuel, you've got a drastic increase in there. 80%.
That we've used,
No,
or that we,
Actual
That you
expenditures.
budgeted for you, so in 2020, the $8,700 was spent in fuel. In 2021, you have budgeted, 2022, you have budgeted $14,000 in fuel.
I didn't change it for you.
Sam?
It's always been budgeted.
It's-
Sorry.
At 14,
Yeah.
So what, oh yeah, what was,
so we could pick up another couple anyway. I would feel pretty,
On fuel.
yeah.
Yeah,
What was it-
I don't,
what
I
was-
feel like,
Sam, what was
considering that was the
2019?
only thing we raised
19
in
you
the budget.
actually used was
I would think there would be a reason why, but I'm not sure if it's,
$12,613.
unless it's just fuel costs.
How about the difference between like the Durango and
Pickup?
The pickup,
you know,
I'm pretty near ran out of gas the other day because I just filled it up and it was on empty.
the pickup?
Yes!
Yeah.
Maybe you
The
need a walking
Durango,
gas
you
can.
can go.
Your pigs.
2019, you actually used $12,613.70.
Yeah, we don't, I
I'd probably maybe leave the fuel alone if
Yeah.
fuel's gone up, what,
Looking at
40?
some prices
Yeah.
and-
40, well, it was, last year was 2 something, you know, now it's 4, no, 3 something, that's
Yeah.
about more, roughly. Okay,
And it doesn't look like it's gonna stop.
yeah, no, that's just.
Or-
just
or
throwing it out,
retreat.
so just so you know.
Okay, so I have travel at 2, publishing and printing at 250, dues at, did you say, that's at 600.
Yeah.
Teletype is at 2,200, office supplies 1,300, uniforms 2,000, fuel 14, repairs and maintenance 5, radio and repeaters 2,500, and then the training and equipment 1,300 or 3,600. Correct? Did I have all that correct? Yeah.
Did training and equipment stay the same?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's an important one.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's the salaries that.
So that comes as a reduction of 2,450.
I wish this spreadsheet would let me do some things on it.
Yeah.
Does a pretty good reduction.
A lot of work for 2450.
And they're gonna move 9,000 up to the salaries. Is that kind of the plan, and leave?
Well, if the salaries are reduced back so that
Mhm.
to the, whatever increase we decide for everybody.
Yeah. And then leave 3 in overtime.
I don't know, that's up to,
Yeah, well, that's just kind of, it doesn't change the dollar amount, but just the,
it's just a law, it doesn't change dollar amount at all.
Yeah.
But it gives, yeah.
So the salary for sheriff and stuff be moved to the 2.8 plus.
2.8 / question mark 1.3.
Yes, plus, plus the 3,000. Versus the whatever dollar amount she came up with for 2,600.
So what this does, they don't spend the whole hourly salary.
That's
9,000 was spent, 9,800, but it's gonna put more money, we still budget every year for it, and the leftover money in the sheriff's department goes into the overall general fund anyway, so it's part of the general fund
Okay.
carryover. So all this does is allow budgeted money to stay in the sheriff's department rather than be taken away at the end of the year.
right. And that hourly one is now for, not for overtime, but for if we have to hire somebody to cover a shift or whatever kind of thing, right?
Yeah, so that would be if something would happen and I need Steele County here, whatever.
Okay.
And then now I don't have to worry about bugging Sam about overtime and what's this and what's that.
Well, and that does relieve, now if you classify those employees as salaried employees, that does relieve some liability also. Because there's been lots of lawsuits, of course, for people working hourly and then not being compensated correctly, and I'm sure you've been involved in a few of those. This way, it makes it more vague, and gives us more leeway in how we wanna handle that. If you abuse it, your employees will come after you, if you don't abuse it, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with overtime's not fun.
Well, especially when it doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it all
40
goes-
hours is 40 hours, then that's okay, but then when you get into all this other,
Yeah.
And it just upsets staff because
Mumble
they think it's
jumble.
coming, it's not coming,
you can't explain why.
and. No, but, yep.
Sorry. You good? You waiting for me?
Are you playing Angry Birds?
Candy Crush.
Want to take a look, 5-minute recess?
Sure.
Yeah, I gotta,
Make a motion.
yes, I'll make a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Motion by Stephanie, take 5-minute recess, second.
I'll second.
Second by Mark. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
My letters.
And lady.
Huh?
And lady.
In lady.
I think.
Folks.
Was I supposed to, do you guys want these numbers? So if I take the 53, 790, 33, and all of like the estimated expenditures, I did the 2.8 percent increase, and then the 3,000. I get 58,000, 296.46 for the sheriff. The chief deputy would be 47,319, and deputy one would be 44,415.38. Still leaving 3,000 within the hourly salary.
I'm such a pain, Sam. Can you say the numbers again?
Absolutely. The sheriff's salary will be 58,296.46. Chief deputy would be 47,319, and next deputy would be 44,415.38, leaving 3,000 in the hourly salary. I can check my math one more time too.
So the grand total just changes by 2450 though, is that correct?
Mhm.
The number that matters just changes by 2450.
Oops.
Oh, shoot.
It's gonna change, it's not gonna change that much, because we gotta add to the retirement. Not the retirement, yeah, the retirement's gonna change, because we upped the salary, the hourly wage is now retirement. or-
Oh, no, that's- So it's gonna wash it out.
Yep.
$3,841.30. Is that what you had a difference of?
What's that?
$3,841.30. Is that what you did?
That's what it increased the benefits.
And that's what it's increasing that, final allowance by.
The grand total went up $3,800.
Yep.
After we took 2,400, it went up 38.
On the very bottom. No.
That isn't the right direction.
No, I was just talking about the salary, sorry. At the very bottom, 185.
It's still gonna go up 1,200.
Yeah, there you go. But it would,
Well, then we
would,
just have to adjust it accordingly, so we get our,
No, we'll go.
so that the top is net zero.
1,391.
Up.
Up.
Because part of that increase is actually salaries, retirement.
Yep, yep.
And there's no, if you move the overtime into the salary, you have to do the benefits.
Right, but even if they tapped into it in the hourly side, they would have had to still
Yeah,
pay the
but it-
benefits in it
But we
anyways,
didn't
so.
budget for it.
But it wasn't budgeted for, so.
Right, so they would have went over it anyways.
Well. we
No,
did-
that's all budgeted for. That's, the retirement and all that stuff, that's within the,
In the hour.
You
yeah.
threw
Well,
all of that.
Then it should be a net wash.
So when you ran their payroll and had that overtime in there, you broke that out and took that out of the hourly salary one? All of it?
Say that one more time.
So when you ran payroll and you paid somebody overtime,
Yep.
you figured out how much that overtime was, that would have went from everything else, the state, the taxes, the whatever, and added that all up and took that out of the hourly salary, or did you just take the
No, I
dollar amount?
just took the dollar amount.
Okay. Okay.
So when we do
And
away
then
with that
on-
hourly, that $12,000 of hourly salary, that also did away with the benefits then?
No, that's within, like the social security, that's B16. That's on a different one, so then that gets calculated.
But it's not
calculated.
budgeted against
The sheriffs.
the sheriffs?
No, no,
And the retirement is not either?
no. And the 12,000.
That 12,000 is budgeted in the social security account though,
Yeah,
on B16.
yeah.
If it was all used, it's counted for.
So it's a wash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because absolutely nothing should change.
The retirement was, would have been a little bit less because overretirement is, a lot of the times paid without retirement. And then, so then this would be on top of that, so then this would be with retirement.
So it'd be $9,000 at 15%.
But it's all budgeted all the way through, that budget just would have been a little bit ahead than.
Oh, okay.
So what's our final number for sheriff then, for total outlay?
186,480.84.
What was your total for salaries?
Total for salaries was 153,030.84.
Okay. I messed up somewhere then.
Well, because it made the $9,000 of that overtime available right to salary rather than.
Right.
Yeah.
So the sheriff was 58.2,
Yeah,
chief was 46.3, and the
47.
47, there we go.
43,
I knew there was something. All right, thank you.
And 44, 3
Perfect.
deputies. I do have one question. What happens for next year at this time? We just keep that 3,000 in there for next year for overtime? You follow me?
They'll just
No,
never.
It's gone.
Yep.
No, it's not gone.
These budgets don't carry money over.
They don't carry money over, okay.
They go into the general fund.
There's nothing, okay, so that's, okay,
Yeah.
that's, all right,
See, budgeting is not putting money in an account, it's the ability to spend money.
okay, just a check, I just, yeah, oh, yeah.
No, we wouldn't figure another 3,000 on top of
That's
this
what, yeah.
year's.
No, it's the ability to spend money.
Right,
This
right,
money
right.
goes back into Sam's
Pocket.
pocket. And she goes out accordingly.
Yeah, I wouldn't figure another 3,000 for overtime.
Then she goes to Tennessee.
Okay.
Oh, she did go to Tennessee, didn't she?
So what did I do for our overall 200? Are we done now with all this? Can you punch the button and see what it does for that $250,000 number?
Punch a button.
I think we gotta go through road department yet, don't we? Well, I mean, you're talking general fund.
No, I mean, the road department was done, wasn't it?
Yeah, except for 2.8%.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, we still haven't done the salary wages.
So right now,
But we've okayed the road other than the proposed salary. We did that the first time around.
so right now it's $234,853.71 more than last year.
234.
234,853.71.
Okay.
So everybody's okay with the sheriff.
Anything best we can do?
Are there any others we haven't looked at?
No, yeah, gone through them all.
What's the balance on the CARES Act account?
234, 853, 74.
No, the CARES Act,
Oh,
Okay, yeah.
122, or is that? Or is,
That's the CARES Act, that's that,
yeah, that's at 122
Yeah.
roughly.
yeah. And then there's that,
Recovery.
is there 400 and something thousand out there?
433,000 Griggs has.
And some change.
but that one, we have to apply for those funds, correct?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you can get half this year, and it can be interest bearing, and then you get the other half next year.
But you have to apply for them with a specific purpose.
No,
No, you can just get it, but they said that they haven't come up with all of the rules and all of the things complete yet of what you can spend it on.
So let's not try to put this into this budget, let's apply
No.
for it.
Yeah.
right.
Right, yeah, like
But
I
we
think
can
she
spend the
could-
interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need that.
So you can, like Steele County's already gotten their half, like she said, you just have to put in the request for it and
Mhm.
Yep.
do that.
$433,346.
So I make a motion, we put in a request for that, that's a budgetary item. We'll do that?
You want a motion right now, or can I just do it? I was just gonna do it.
You want- well, doesn't matter, do it then. Okay,
It's your job.
so now let's settle the wage thing.
I'll make a motion to approve that
8.
2.8% wage increase per
That's-
employee.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, what do you call them, staff? What do you call them?
That's the cost of living plus a wage
The
increase.
1.5.
Yep,
And that comes in at what amount figure again?
$31,720.11.
Motion by Stephanie to increase. Is that it doesn't include the sheriff's department?
No, that does include the sheriff's.
It does
yes,
include-
it does, because
okay.
they're gonna take the,
Oh, shoot, that's wrong. That 31,720.11, that's wrong. Sorry. That was with before the sheriff you guys just did different stuff. So hold the phone.
But you could still make I probably shouldn't say it, you could still make a motion to take the sheriff's part out of the COVID-19 funds, rather than out of the general budget.
But, so I got a question back on the sheriff's. Did you add the 3,000 to the 56, or did you add it to the? So this sheriff's budget salary, let's just use the sheriff's salary, is that 56,390 representative of a 2.8% increase or a 5% increase?
Are you okay, you're asking me. Okay,
Yeah.
hold on one second. I was on 2021 budget, so just give me 1 minute.
Or is that what you added it to, was the 53?
So I took the 53,790.33 times
Okay.
that by 0.028 to get what their increase would be. Added
then
that
added
to the
the
53,790.33 and then added the 3,000.
Got it, okay. That
Good
answers
job.
my question.
Okay, so then this is the 58.
So we have a motion on the table for a 2.8% increase in wages by Stephanie. Is there a second?
Is that number, so the 30,000,
No, it's gonna be higher than
She's
that.
being hired, she's working on that.
because it wasn't included, the sheriff's department?
I didn't include that. No, I did the 6,700 increase that you guys were talking about
Okay.
before. So just
So
one.
let me get this straight then. So the increase for the sheriff's department is the $2,000 per employee there,
3,000.
plus another 2.8?
they'll get 2.8 and then 3, because we'll take that hourly salary, which was their overtime, and just give it to them so their overtime's already paid for it, and we're gonna eliminate
So it's not
overtime
really extra,
altogether.
it's already in the budget.
Yep.
But their
Not
but their salary would go up.
But it was gonna get paid to them anyway.
Whether if it was the overtime hourly, or whether it was, we just eliminating overtime.
It just moved the category of it. I mean, either $10,000 of what was paid the last time in 2020. So it was gonna get paid either way, it just recategorized it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be.
And you already.
Do you
cut
have
the rest of the
to,
budget.
do paperwork, employee paperwork, to let them know that they're exempt employees, that they will be, and have them sign it so that they're aware that they're exempt employees? And don't get overtime, since their salary?
That'll have to be something, I suppose, Jamie.
Yeah, because my,
Well,
upon hire, I have mine signed saying that, you know, this is what they get, and if they're exempt.
yeah, Devin found out what it was like to be salary employee.
Didn't like,
When Houston, when they had their power outage this winter, they couldn't get a fracking tower going where she was. She was at a different job, and she had to go back
John,
and
what
help
did you
them
say
get
we
that
used
going,
in the
plus do a brother's
overtime?
job.
10?
She did that for 2 months.
The 10,000.
Last time you did it at 9.8.
Yeah, so we used 10,000 and we're asking for 9,000.
Yeah.
So that's actually a deal on your side. Thought you got that one by me, didn't you, John?
No. There was money, 3,000
Because most
left.
likely you're gonna get that 3,000 back.
Well, I'm not getting it back, we're just not spending it, and that's a benefit to the taxpayers, so we don't have to take
Well,
any money.
that's what I,
But she, then her
Was
boss just said it to both
fine.
of them, places. You need to figure it out. She's coming.
you might end up letting your cows out.
I might do that.
You just might do it yourself.
Yeah. You know, there's new laws
So
now
if
that
I
down
take
south of the
that
border, that you
times
can't, you know, fences don't matter, you know, so. I said I wanted to turn my cows out because I was stunting your creativity.
Okay, so then I want to times that by 0.028 equals.
And then while I'm at it, I
That's
might
what
just
would be,
load a couple of them up. You don't have to bring them right on over.
I got a
Keep them
couple
in
that
Kale's
would,
fun.
I got a couple that would see how fast you could run.
and then it would be
No, I don't like that.
9,000.
You step out of the house, it goes up.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so then
That's bad news.
30,
They can't have much good meat on them if they run everybody.
less than 9,000. And you get times that by 20.
But if you need help chasing them, getting them in the line, Scott's the guy to get.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Freddie stays nice and calm.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Not quite.
About a 6-pack of Mountain Dew and a baseball bat, and he's all good to go.
Not good.
There's no sense in getting all worked up, you know.
Me and Cal don't get along too well some days.
Tell my dad it was so.
That's what I know. Put it on this one.
It's just like,
Less than 9,000 equals. So then times that by 20.
George sent it to me.
401 equals.
You know, just a guesstimate, we kind of figured the first, if the 1.6,
okay, this is how.
whatever your first initially was, 1.6, ended up being 26,000, 1.3 must be what, 20?
It's a cow's life.
So it'd be like 40?
1.3 was the COLA and then
Yeah.
Yeah, but I figured to do the 1.6 was like 26,000. So that 1.3 must be pretty close to the 26.
Or just a little.
So it'd be maybe
Way behind
80,
costs.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna guess, 51,000?
What was the balance on COVID fund again? 122.
Yes. With that gray hair.
Okay, get this. 122, 725, 31.
725.31.
No, granted, most of them would be earrings, but you take a donation prints to send it, okay? I called a state crime line this morning. No, we don't do that. Here's a third party. Like it's 2021. Can you see that? So it's okay to pay $30. So I guess if you have a major crime scene, you know,
Is there a system?
So we have 81, 533, 92.
Pay for that for missing tool or drill?
I wouldn't have to add in that because that's so 22, 33.
Mark and Brian. Yeah, it's 700 bands per month.
722,
33,
not good.
92.
Said it could have been worse.
Hmm?
Said it could have been worse.
All right.
If
They have a lot of cattle.
Yeah.
If you said we could take.
It's just an extra step you can do, but obviously. Then we would use BCI, I'm sure would use.
5, 4, 10, 3, increase in salaries, 37, 168, 95. That is including the retirement FICA, job service workers comp, and the 224.64 for the increase in health insurance.
Why would the health insurance increase?
Huh?
You said health insurance.
Increase by 0.18, so $1
$1 a month, you were saying?
dollar something a month
Month.
per person.
That's the
Didn't get to be much. Excuse me?
What was that, 30?
37, 163, 95.
Okay.
Drill, you know. That is a little.
Okay, so I have a motion by Steph to accept, to increase wages by 2.8.
Percent per employee. Staff, or whatever I call them.
2.8. Okay,
Motion by Stephanie to approve a 2.8% increase in wages for Griggs County employees, which amounts to $37,163.95. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion?
So what's our final number at then that we're out of work?
234, 853.71.
Which is how much excess levy from last year?
Yeah, so approximately a 16% increase to everybody's taxes over last year. Of what we can levy. This
Yeah.
board.
So, how did, granted, we went through all the budgets, and there didn't seem to appear to be a $240,000 increase, or is there?
It's the decrease of the revenue that was carried over, right?
is that carryover amount?
That was about a wash. We decreased in the revenue, but we decreased in the carryover, but we increased increased revenue by 100,000, so it's what a wash.
It's a case of death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, well, the 26th isn't gonna make the here or there, but it's somewhere else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's 37, so you take, so that puts us down to,
Well, if he, that's if he gave him no increase.
right. But that's,
Right.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
It's a mill and a half.
Oh, so you got the warrant. So he'd have to come tomorrow.
I mean, you look at the budgets. What are you gonna do? Cut 16% of the people that are working here?
yeah. Well,
I mean, we can take that COVID money. I'd like to see that, at least 25 of it for the sheriff's vehicle.
and anything that offsets
Yeah,
levy, yeah.
because that's something we're gonna get anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, and you can use it for that. Absolutely, tap into that.
One thing that is pretty big is we did in 2021 for the estimated revenues, we were estimating the state aid to be 428, and actual what we got in was 293.
Ooh.
So last year you over budget revenues.
Yeah, we,
Yeah.
Okay. What guesstimate, that's what you,
mhm.
okay.
What'd you say that was again, Sam?
So in the 2021 budget, we estimated 2020 state aid to be 428,000, and what we got in for 2020 was 293.
And what do you have estimated for this year?
This year we estimate 407,680.
And that came from where?
That came from the email from Linda Svobovic from the association.
Well, last year she told us the same thing, and it didn't come true.
And then, let me try and find those real quick.
So even if we gave no raises, we would still be way under, way.
Mm-hmm.
um, And do we normally under budget? Or usually balance?
We can. I mean, if you're under
Yeah.
budget, you can't spend it, so then
Yeah.
you're,
So do we normally over budget?
yes, in the general fund by $700,000 last year. We sit here long enough, we're gonna figure it out,
Yeah.
There's lots of room in the budget to cut, but no one's willing to do that. $700,000 last year in the general fund alone that we didn't use. Well, is that an over budget or is that just a mistake? It's an over budget.
I cut, John.
I know,
I cut it
I know, everybody did,
Yeah.
no one's fault, but here we sit.
Cause we talk about using this COVID money Yeah, that's all fine and good, but when that's gone, is there another little cash cow that's supposed to run along?
No, but I mean, that won't do it either. But I mean, I'm not picking on,
Yeah.
I'm not picking on the sheriff's department. We just went through that. And the bottom line is, on the expenses other than the salaries, we over budgeted last year by $16,000. We went and cut $2,400. I mean, so that's the long and short of it. We do that in every budget. If you go look at what was spent the last time we kept track and compare it to what we budget, it's always, well, you add them all together, just in the general fund, it's $700-some thousand. Now, on the plus side of that, that money in the general fund doesn't get away from us. It comes back and we use it again the next year. But we keep trapping it within those budgets. Because each department wants to, even though they didn't spend all their money, they want to budget the same thing for the next year, so it doesn't give us any fluidity. Liquidity? No, whatever.
Liquidity.
Doesn't liquidity, to be able to move those funds around as they should. So, it's easy to see where the problems are, but it's hard to make it work correctly. I think that the only thing budgeted in the department's budget should be their salaries. I think everything else should be in one big general fund budget that could be used accordingly because the county commission okays all the bills anyway. It's redundant that we have to do it through a budget and then at the meeting. That way it would give all this money in one big pot that could be then discussed whether it should be spent or not. And it would do away with a lot of what we're dealing with here. The budget, the salaries would be budgeted individually, and maybe a few items in that individual budget, and then the ones that were in question, fuel and all the rest of them for all the budgets would be in one big pot. That would get you by for a while. It would tighten things up. You'd still have to have a reserve over here in case you miss something. It would be not any different than the way most people run their farms and their business or anything else.
Absolutely.
And that's why I've always advocated, I'd always said it'd be a lot simpler if we just could put this on QuickBooks or something of that nature and have a few savings account and a checking account and then all the different expenses, and we could all understand it easier.
Yeah.
One quick question, do we have to keep a minimum balance or a reserve or back? Is there any, like the school board has to keep so much back as reserves, do we have the same thing with the county?
Your reserve cannot.
You follow what I'm saying, is there something like that, or?
Your reserve cannot exceed 75% of your.
There's no minimum reserve, but there's a maximum.
Okay.
It's prudent for us to have monies that aren't allocated that we can
Absolutely.
allocate in case we miss something.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all what I'm talking about now, and we can't do it this year anyway, so it doesn't matter, but that's what that would do. That would put all those monies as discretionary. So my question is, are we throwing away the whole idea then of COLA raises? I would imagine we are. And we're just gonna go back to the process of
Whatever we think. Is that?
that sound pretty wise?
That makes it pretty tough.
I don't want to do that.
I don't either.
But it's not really whatever we think, it was comparable.
When it was first brought up, Mark said 1.5% in addition to the 1.3% COLA.
I don't think we ever voted on it. I think it was tabled until we got numbers.
Yeah, nobody voted
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
but that was the recommendation, and then it
And
went
the
through the
reason-
process, but then you didn't have the full numbers of the cost of it.
Yeah.
So then you,
You know, the reason I went to the 1.5 is because if you look at supposedly the COLA back 7 years, the first 2 years were probably short of the COLA a little bit.
We didn't increase
We didn't put that into effect.
Yeah, yes.
So it can only go from the time we started Decola. Because before that, the previous commissioners gave raises just, so if you're gonna say the COLA was short, it wasn't short, we just started it. From the time we started it, we've
Okay.
stuck by it. That's all there is to
When
it.
you started, that's what we got, was from.
That was when you first started.
Yep, so
Yes,
the only thing
but
that's
like
on
you
that
said-
COLA list is what, the raises that we got based on the COLA, cause I think in the first couple of years, the COLA number was based on the estimate and not the final number.
Yeah, it took.
So that's how we got short.
Well, but there's
Well,
no
not
short.
short, but the process
that's what, but they fixed it
part of
after
it.
that, is
Yeah,
what he's
there
saying.
was a lot of adjustments, but I mean,
Yeah.
that's all
Yeah.
water under the bridge.
Yeah,
That is-
yep, yep,
that-
yep.
That's all, I mean, there
Right,
was
but
been a
that
lot of
is
adjustments made, there were
what it
salaries
is.
out of whack with each other, there are a lot of different changes in that.
I mean, and as I go through this whole process every year, you know, I keep hearing, and there's one disturbing thing that I always hear, is that the 1.3 isn't a raise. And that irritates me to no end. Because do we have to pay that? No, we don't. Therefore, I guess that's a raise in salary.
How about the $1,000 that was talked about the other day? Per employee?
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, I mean, Wayne, that's kind of a silly argument. I talked about, you're not bringing up what I talked about.
No.
Yeah.
So you're bringing up.
I'm not bringing up what you talked about.
Okay, so.
But the 1.3 is a raise also.
Right.
And, I mean, how do we come up to that 250? Or don't we try?
Right. I think we'll have to look at different areas.
Yeah.
First, we need to settle on what number we're shooting at. So let's settle this wage thing.
Mhm.
That's what we need to have a target first.
Before you vote, just going by Robert's Rules of Order, you've already voted on the 1.3.
Right.
So this should be 1.5 rather than the 2.8.
Oh, yes, you're correct.
This would be,
Okay,
almost make it an addition.
that's fine during that same meeting, but we do not recess. We open our meeting and we close our meeting.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I mean, the
Yeah.
kicker is we're not bound by Robert's Rules of Order.
yeah,
Okay.
We use them at our discretion, but we're not bound by them. And we haven't okayed any of these, but none of these numbers are finalized yet. We'll do that when we get all done with, we'll finalize the whole budget. But good point, if that is Robert's Rules of Order, but we're just trying to determine a number right now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I
even
just
if we
didn't want
voted,
to-
we haven't finalized that 1.5 or the 1.3, we haven't finalized any of this. We haven't finalized one thing in this budget yet. We're trying to get to that point.
That's our whole process. I think we do have numbers already for a 1.3. We've seen those numbers.
Mhm.
You just back the
And now you see the
$37,000
numbers on here
out
for-
of this, out of the 134 and you end up at 197.
So, is there any more discussion?
I'll bring up one point, this might help or this might hurt, depending on which side you're on. So if we're gonna throw away the gentleman's agreement we had, and I'm willing to argue, I'm willing to honor that as far as the COLA increases, if we stay with the COLA increases. If we go ahead with this, then that's gotta be out the door.
And next year, they
It could
talk
be
about a
nothing.
big,
If it's 10%, no, then if it can't be one way for, if it's good for the employees and one way, it's gotta be, we got a set number. So whatever, I gave my word on Nicola and it was gonna be based on the ending year. And we always said if it was a big number, that we just have to live with that. But that can't be that way if we change the rules now.
or,
You can't, you have to have consistency in how you do
Yeah.
increases, or it gets to be such a hodgepodge.
But I think a lot of that too came from the work we did with the comparisons. We're not just throwing numbers out just because we're greedy and we want to raise. We are comparing where we're at.
Well, you just said that the main, we live in Griggs County, North Dakota, and that is what that is the wage that we're paying, and everybody has a right to better themselves. Everybody has decisions on why they're willing to accept that wage. We're not saying no raise, we're saying a cost of living increase based on what the wage is.
I get that, but it was kind of saying we're throwing out hodgepodge numbers, but we're really not. We did our homework, and that's why we picked the numbers we did. It wasn't
That's not
just
relevant to me.
throwing stuff up.
I don't
Well, it is
care
to
what-
me, so
I
I
know,
can
but
say it.
I don't care what they're
I
paying in
do.
Steele County, but we're not
We
Steele
do.
County.
The
Then-
general public
then
does.
the
Just because you
obvious-
don't doesn't mean we don't.
No, the general public cares about getting
Not
the
in-
services
no.
they need.
No. That's why these are, why would a salary study even be emailed out to everybody? It's for us to use. It's a tool to use. I mean,
No.
just because you don't care doesn't mean we don't
We're
care.
not competing.
You have
with
your
them.
opinion, we have ours. And it's what people make in the same kind of job,
The obvious.
period.
The obvious answer then would be if you want to make what they make in Steele County, then you probably have to go work in Steele County. That's what the
No, that's
general.
that's not at all what I said.
If I
I'm
wanna-
saying
if I wanna
comparing,
make what they
not
make
moving
in
and working
Washington,
there.
DC, I have to go work in
Comparing to
Washington,
work in a
DC.
county that we like to be in, is what we're saying.
That then
I'm not
again,
saying I wanna go work in Steele County, so I'm gonna move there. I'm
Well,
saying,
that's
no,
how it
there's
works.
salary studies out for that reason.
Well, we
They
have a
didn't just
different-
make
we have
them
a
up for
different view
nothing.
on government then.
So that's exactly why we did our homework, and we're not just throwing out numbers, they're right here.
They're irrelevant to me.
That's fine to you, John, but they're not to us, and maybe they're not to other people in this room.
That, I just said to me.
The-
They're
And I'm
irrelevant
saying to
me.
us.
I am here in Griggs
Period.
County.
The only downfall I like about the COLA is that we're using 2020 COLA to do 2022 raises. That's, I mean, you're already a year behind on everything, 2 years behind. Because when they use COLA raises, they use 2020 COLA for 2021 for Social Security, retired military, that's who uses the COLA.
I agree. So in next year, if the 2021 COLA is at 10% and we get to 2023 and and inflation is down at 0, we're still gonna pay the 10%. Or in that case, would you back it off then? And
Right.
because they already received the 10%, but now we get to when they're gonna use it and there is no inflation. So how do you make it fair? See,
Discuss that then.
it's both sides of the knife there.
All right?
My thought on the whole cost of living and the wage increase is when you do the cost of living, that's how much it takes to buy the same amount as it did the year before.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have this salary, mine 44,000, and the cost of living is 1.3, it's gonna cost me 1.3% to keep the same living that I have. And so then that's where I'm kind of saying at the cost of living and then a raise on top of that. That's where I kind of think it's two different ones. No disrespect saying that that's not an increase, but I'm buying the same amount of milk for that in that year with that cost of living increase.
Yeah.
I can't put any more into savings that I could if I got a raise, is kind of the way that my feelings are.
Yeah. So
Just
how do you
a
explain
little.
that to the person that is paying for this increase that is not getting a cost of living increase and is actually earning less money than they were last year? How do you explain to them that we are entitled to a raise and they aren't, and by the way, the raise has to come out of their pocket?
You just told us that we could go get another job in Steele County, so could they.
You don't see the obvious problem
That
with
is the obvious.
We're taking their money.
I mean, we
We're
choose to
We're
work-
taking their money. They can't go buy land in Steele County and move their farming operation. They can't move.
Why not?
They
Well,
can't
you're
move-
asking us to
they
go
can't-
move to Steele
they
County if
can't
we
move
wanna
their-
make that money.
They can't move their house.
What's the difference?
They can't move their house. They can't move any of the things that are taxed.
But we can?
The way I
You can move your residence, yes.
the way I'm kind of thinking about that is, what would I say to them? Well,
Right.
I've gotten, like I said a few meetings ago, I'm way more valuable now than I was 5 years ago.
I know.
So I feel that, the public that comes in to visit me, they're gonna get the help that they need, and I'm gonna be boom, boom, boom. If they need help, we're all here and we're very knowledgeable in our positions. I feel that deserves a little bit more of a pay increase, just my own personal
Again, I'm taking the
opinion.
public side in this, not all the public.
I'm just,
Yeah,
you're
I mean, how
asking-
do they justify, they say, well, I never got a pay increase, I'm earning less money, I'm going broke, I'm going out of business, but I have to pay more taxes because, why? Why, they
Do they
believe
pay
that-
more when
Why is
they
the public
have
making less
good
money?
years? Do you pay more?
What's that?
Why is the public
As a
making
farmer,
less
do you
money?
pay us?
Well, because of inflation, because of COVID, haven't you noticed that, because of the farm economy, the growth that's taking place right now? I know of at least 4 different ranchers that aren't gonna be in business next year.
How about
The
when
farm-
they,
The overall farm economy is going to be drastically turned down. We have many businesses that have closed, employees that don't have jobs. Inflation, salaries not going up for salaried employees or hourly employees. I mean, some businesses are able to stay afloat and give increases, but overall not. And so these aren't good times for everybody.
but when it's good times, do they give more money to the county? Or the same?
Well, under the last 7 years, the same. And from this entity here, but overall, the taxing entities in the county have drastically taken more money from them every year.
But we haven't.
You haven't. Well, I mean, there's been more wages. We've tried to keep it in check as far as an overall, but you have to, I mean, we get into philosophy here of what is government for and what should it do, but the end of all of this is, no one walks in and says, here's my money, I don't need it, you guys can have it. We forcibly take these dollars from people at gunpoint. And
Right,
I don't
which is-
agree with it, I don't like it.
We pay, I mean, same for us, we pay
Yep,
taxes.
everybody pays taxes, yeah, so everybody's in the same boat. So, given that nobody is on board with paying excess taxes or paying taxes in general, we make them do that. I think we owe the discussion to them to be treated the same as we're treating the employees. And if it's a bad time for them, it should be a bad time for us and vice versa. That's the way I see it. Because I have to go to, the people that I represent are gonna say, what?
I
I'm going
get
broke.
that,
But
when it was
I gotta
good
quit.
years, we never got to catch up. So here we sit in a hole, and if we don't do anything, if next year's just as bad or the year after is just as bad, we're still gonna sit in a hole, and we're gonna say, well, the economy's bad, so you guys just sit in your hole.
Do you realize what the average salary is in Griggs County?
I'm really, no. I know what the average salary is around me for the job I do, for my job,
Mark, what's the average salary
and
in
I'm
Griggs County?
less,
I believe
so.
it's 32,500.
And that's with benefits.
But
So,
are they deputies or sheriffs?
That's average salary, that's medium salary.
So not all deputies and sheriffs? No, I didn't know.
But are they part of the wage makeup of that? Yeah, they would be.
Right, and they're the
Yeah.
ones
Yeah.
utilizing our services, and
So explain to me that 15% increase in taxes. So my taxes are gonna go up 15% if we get these,
for the properties that you own, yes.
yeah?
On the county
Not
side.
because of the raise, but because
No,
the
because
budget that we're working on right now is over.
That's-
we're levying 15, we're
So we're
levying
just
15% more than we levied last
We
year.
haven't detailed the rest of the budget, we're only looking at the salary side right now. We need to review the rest of it to see what we can do to make changes.
So 1.8 million is what we're gonna levy compared to 1.5. So whatever that difference is, will have to be spread across all the properties in it. So that would be the, yeah. So no, the salaries do not encompass that. No, the salaries are part of that, but they're not the majority of it.
No.
When I hear John talk about throwing out the COLA, I'm hoping you guys aren't giving up more than what you're getting by the 1.5.
Okay, this is just a friendly discussion.
Yeah.
So if it's 12% next year, how are we gonna come up with that additional funds, and how is the county gonna, somebody's got to pay more taxes?
Then we certainly, more taxes. That's always been the hitch with this thing, but that's what the board came up with originally on how to handle this. And that's always been a question I had in the back of my head, how are we gonna handle this? But can't hardly say for 7 years that we're doing the COLA, then when it goes to 10%, not do the COLA.
That's Smith.
Or maybe you can.
Or whatever it is.
Probably good.
Well, we've got a motion on the table. Have we discussed it to our satisfaction?
You're,
Yes.
Friendly discussion again. If you stuck with COLA, would you guys ever consider maybe then a longevity? Because as we spoke, so then that would eliminate the issue if you're worried about hiring, like when Connie retires, you're worried about hiring somebody way up there. Well, no, then they would start back at whatever you would start at, and then,
I'm
Would
glad
that
you
ever
brought
be
that
a-
up. Connie asked me last week,
Would that ever be
I
a
didn't answer the
consideration?
question on, we pay all elected officials the same, and some examples, well, I looked, and the examples are every state in the union pays their legislators the same amount of money. By the way, you guys are making more than our state legislators. They get $500 a month and $187 a day when they're in session. So there are people that are paid less than you are. Our federal,
would that ever be a
our
because that
federal
would be a
people.
way to not throw out numbers. That would be a way then to stick with the COLA, but then you do have longevity, which is an incentive for people.
And at least to, look at it for the hourly people,
Or, yeah.
Not your deputies, but our deputies and,
Yeah.
whoever else is appointed is hourly, so.
I do
Mitch,
think
an
that
idea.
throws a little, I look at my deputy, she's been here 10 years, and there'll be a deputy maybe next year that will start, she can be here for 10 seconds, which makes the same exact wage. I mean, I think when you've put, and there was a comment that was made the other day, and it was to the effect of, if we had a high turnover, we may have to pay our employees more. So I took that as almost like a punishment for longevity, for our dedication, for our service, for every year we get more training. And like I said, she's got 35 years, I've got 14 years, she has 7 years. We put that time and dedication in. So I think that's where, when I look at this, yes, we appreciate the COLA. And yes, we were not using it as the terms of a raises, the way that, Sam explained that perfectly. So I think, when I look at the COLAs that we received, thinking about that 1.5, it's none of us trying to get rich or to take money away from people. It's a very small percentage. I understand every percentage we request or we receive will impact some way. Well, yeah, when I hear about counties surrounding us and some of the increases, wrong or right, I just think, wow, for another year, another service, another, more knowledge in this 1.5. Like I said, we do appreciate the COLA. Without the COLA, we receive nothing. That's the sentiment, is that if there wasn't a COLA, we'd receive nothing here. That's the way we
I
feel.
think
100%.
According to guesstimate online, average COVID, this is the guesstimate, could range between 4 point,
COLA.
or COLA, what does it say, COVID? You know how I roll, it's a mobile COVID. 4.5 to 6.1%. But the estimate actually is 5.5%. So if you add that 5.5%, let's say it is 5.5, and 1.3, that gives you 6.8. And if you get 2.8 this year, rather than the 1.3, you're only off 4 for next year. So that would just kind of bring it to you. And honestly, that'd be the smartest way to move, because then you guys would kind of spread the two in the 2 years versus having to slam it all up in one and be going.
Right.
But
You're saying we can reduce it next year 1.5?
yeah, I'd go with the 4%. You know, 4% is a nice raise. I try to give my staff 4% every year.
No, but there, you don't know what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
You don't know,
I
but
can
according to
find-
here, the guesstimate's 5.5.
I can find you guesstimates where it's 12%, I
Well,
can
it's
find,
not
Right,
I can
gonna
find
be-
you, I can
It's not
find
gonna
you
be
if you
lower
go by
than the
No, but we're-
Biden's, there's not gonna be any inflation.
Inflation.
But we're using, right, but we're using
6
2020 for
Catch up.
2022. 1.3 is just, I mean, $400 for the
What's
year.
the source on that?
Oh, no, I closed it.
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Bloomberg's is, sorry.
They were using
We can all Google it and get the highest number.
Moody's, Moody's. I don't know
Analytics.
some of them.
But
But it's just one of the things that you read where it's like, well, it could be, you don't know. It could be.
No.
But
again, you could very well be receiving the 5% in a time when there's 0% inflation.
But
It
it's
just lags.
still the catch-up. They've already experienced the 5%, so
Yeah.
that's.
All I was saying is, it's gotta be one way or the other, it can't be both. And it can't be used.
Why can't we?
And, yeah.
Or
It
something
can be,
else?
it can be anything.
why can't it be both? I don't.
Yeah.
I think that's not. I don't think you need to make a decision on that for right now for next year
Yeah,
when it
right,
comes
yeah.
to it. But
Let's vote on what we got on the table.
Both dinner time.
Yeah. Refresh our motion. It's a 2.8% pay increase. 1.3 is
Cost of
cost of
living.
living, and 1.5 base increase. That's what we're been discussing. John,
No.
Scott,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Stephanie,
yes,
Dale votes no. Motion carries.
Okay, let's fix this now. So now we got a $234,000 deficit, right?
yes.
All right. Let's move the COVID funds, 122,725.31 to the general fund.
Hold on 1 second. Give me- That was a very long
What sheet are we
discussion.
do that on?
Hmm?
You are moving
122,725.31 to, of the COVID funds, move it to the general fund,
all of them.
all of it. This is a motion now. It's been over 3 years that the emergency fund, the C-19 fund, has not been utilized. We can close that fund after 3 years. I recommend we not close it. I recommend we move $54,004.93 to the general fund,
Of emergency?
C-19 emergency.
You want to move, so transfer out.
54,000.
$4.92. Okay,
725.
if that is the balance of the COVID fund.
What page are you entering that on, Sam?
Okay, so I am doing it on, if you go to the C33
Okay.
and on the transfer out, at the very bottom there should be a transfer out and it'll be F40.
C-33. Okay.
And so
I think
do
she said there
the,
was 22,000 in the COVID fund last.
122.
122.
So now when you've done those, Sam, what does that leave us for?
122, 725, 31.
Yeah.
That's the number you had, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so then I do that. And then I,
What page are you on, Michelle?
okay, so transfer in. Okay,
I like this transfer out button. That's really cool.
With
It just fixes the spreadsheet.
7531 plus the 54,004.
What should show up on the budget? It should show up on the on how much we're gonna.
On the levy
budget.
page?
I think we should be down to,
Transfer.
we should be down to about this one.
I don't know.
And an increase. Like 49,286.96.
What's that? This is how much we're increased so far?
That is after I did those transfers.
Okay, now take this amount,
Which amount?
49, now reduce the reserve fund by 49,000, the general reserve by 49,286.96.
Okay. It just is gonna be just a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different.
Okay, let's go
Yeah.
here and do it.
Then I'll make the motion.
78, 897.31 minus the 49, 286. 2, 9, 6, 10, 35.
No, but that's okay.
I'll get it. Just give me
Yeah.
a minute. Just a little.
So nothing changed in yours, okay.
Yet.
No, this is done.
25,
This will balance it. Just wait.
29, 2, 2, 9, 6, 10, 5. 9, 6,
364.
I don't just get it close, John. I get it right on. You just wait.
Okay.
Um,
But this is what you reduce the emergency fund by.
correct.
These numbers are solid, yeah.
Do we need a motion to change the accounting? And we were talking about before, to, so that we don't look at each department, it's a total kind of a thing.
That would have to be
That'd be hard, because then you're not making each department be accountable for their area, because that's a hard one. Because I even have mine per department, so that, hey, you're responsible for your department, you need to run your budget. But if I
you would have to put some guidelines, and you would have, in my envision of that, you would use exactly what you spent last year as some guidelines, and then the overage would be in the overall general fund. See, we're overestimated right now by $700,000 last year. We overestimated what we were gonna spend, but that
Right.
ties that money up. It locks it into those entities. Because the sheriff's department can't share with the auditor, and the auditor can't share with the treasurer, and vice versa. So if it was all in one fund, it was accessible by and governed by one body, you could solve a lot of these problems. Group checking account, basically, if you wanted to have a simplified version of it. Or
But wonder if, let's say, for instance, somebody overspent on equipment and somebody still needed equipment because we overspent on the equipment budget, would that allow you to be able to pick into a different one? I'm kind of worried about that. I mean, I love the idea, the thought. I can see, I love that thought, but I just keep wondering, like, wonder if one department overspends and the other one gets shafted because the other department used it, or,
well, that's for their whole problem. There's no guarantee of the money that's allocated can be spent. It doesn't have to be spent. So until we get to a point where the salaries, of course, are allocated and spent. Till we get to a point in the rest of it of thriftiness throughout the whole entity, then we're missing the point.
Right.
So a prosperous county government leads to a poor citizenship because we take everything from them.
Mm-hmm.
So you want a county government that's broke because that means you left more money in the hands of the citizens.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So I got, so what we are doing is we are transferring in $176,730.24.
176, yeah, okay.
And then, the reserve goes down to $231,957.35.
Yeah. Okay.
COVID, okay, so let's go.
So yeah, okay. So I'll make the motion then. So what we did here before I make the motion is we took all the COVID funds and we put them into the general fund. So what we're trying to do is we're putting money against that $234,000. We're trying to bring that down to nothing. Then we went into that, remember that C-19 emergency fund we talked about that had the $144,000?
Mm-hmm.
If those funds aren't used for 3 years, they can be reverted back to the general fund. We haven't used that fund in 5 years or so. So we're not going to drain it. We're gonna bring $54,000 out of there.
Okay.
And put into the general fund, and so that Sam came up with what, 176,725 something. So now all we have left is basically what, $49,000 approximately that we're short. So we're gonna reduce the general reserve fund by that amount. So now the general reserve fund will be at $231,957. Now we won't levy any more. We won't levy any more than we did last year, and we'll still have that reserve to go forward.
So what's going to happen next year?
Well, that's
when we don't have the COVID reserve to dip into, or the 54,000 and the
frugalness.
Spend less.
Frugality. That's the whole problem. The can kicking only works until you run out of cans.
Yeah.
It's not much, but that miscellaneous clerk of court funding revenue, you don't have anywhere on here. And that's usually, it can be anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000.
Yeah.
But she's just said, like, you guys don't want that. I mean, it's not a guarantee, just like any of the recorded revenue, but it's something, and I always have, and it's definitely increased with the what are the cards?
Did you say
ID.
recorder?
The ID. No, the clerk of court miscellaneous revenue.
It's kind of better with those ones that we don't know what's going to happen, to leave them for one, if they're in the general fund, to leave them for 1 year, because what happens is then they roll over into the general fund the exact amount. So once it comes in there, then it becomes a carryover, and we use it next year anyway. So it gets picked up.
I did include that in this one. Just I took last year's or what actuals and then put it in there, so I do have it.
Where do you have that?
I don't think it's on that one.
Oh, okay.
It's on mine.
But I was like, hey, it's on the.
Yeah, I have.
So we're ready for our next meeting.
Yeah, so when we go forward now, if unless Sam discovers some huge discrepancy somewhere, we'll just adjust to keep, we'll just adjust the reserve fund, the general reserve fund, to keep the levy amount, or the dollars that need to be levied the same as last year.
Okay.
So say we go through this and now we discover that, we have a little more money than we thought we did, then all that'll happen is we'll just increase the reserve fund a little bit. If we have a little less, we'll bring it down. So we're not gonna raise taxes, we're not gonna lower taxes, we're gonna keep the taxable dollars the same place they are. Same thing we've done for the last 8 years. But you hit it right in the head, what do we do next year?
As I'm saying, we keep, not like a farmer. We're gonna prepay everything, and then next year you gotta prepay again, you gotta prepay again. So how do you, because what do we do for next year when we don't have those funds to tap into? But that again, that's we can.
Well, we just instructed Samantha to apply for $417,000
$200,
worth
I
of
think
funds.
she can get of it, half of it you get right now.
But that's gonna be restricted usage on that, which of course we can, for like other COVID funds, you mean? That 433? Those are restricted guidelines on that, so we'll have to make sure you do some beautiful accounting as to where those are being spent. And we don't have guidelines yet as far as the detail where those can be spent.
No, but
There are some webinars that you can watch on there, they have some information, but they said that there was more that's gonna
Right.
come out, but.
The
Right.
only way to ensure they work for this process is make sure we spend them for something that we're gonna have to spend money on anyway.
Right.
We can't, if we spend them for something in addition,
To improve things.
they didn't do any good. We want them to offset money that we were gonna levy, so we have to be we can't think of those funds as the goose that laid the golden egg, which we're doing with these COVID funds the way they were. They were intended to offset the taxes to the citizens. We just did that. We just threw all this in there and we just distributed that money amongst all the citizens,
Okay.
all the taxpayers, which is the perfect way to do it. So the people that pay more taxes get more use out of it, the people that pay less get less, but it all went to the taxpayer.
And we appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Big fan.
I guess, are we,
Yes, we
I
need,
make a motion to adjourn?
no,
Are we at that point, or what do we gotta
we
do?
gotta make the
Oh,
second,
you-
motion- the
you-
second motion, correct?
Yeah, I
Yes.
just made
You
that.
made
motion.
sure there was second.
And make sure Sam has it all on paper.
Yeah.
Great, let her read it back to us.
Yeah. Good luck.
I'll state it again.
Hold on.
I'll
Okay,
state it again. Dale's got it.
motion by John to move the CARES Act money to general fund, $122,725.31. Transfer $54,000,
$4.93, I believe. Hang on here.
$54,004.93
Yeah.
from the emergency fund to the general fund, and reduce the budgeted reserve to $231,957.
That's right.
That will decrease or move our levy amount to the same as last year. So, is there a second to this motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. John?
All right.
Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dale votes aye. Motion carries.
And also, I'm gonna put this all in a upgraded, dated format, and we'll look at it next.
Yep.
meeting.
Yep.
And can you email that again to me too? Because I'll be on the road when you guys call. Next week, you call me in.
Yep. Absolutely.
Do you have, is your residence in North Dakota?
It's gonna be in Wyoming come soon.
So next meeting, do we have to have the final approvals next meeting, or?
I think that was the.
That's
Yeah.
the.
That's in August.
Yes,
That is next meeting. That's August 5th.
that's not very far away.
No, I know that. I know.
Okay, do you need a motion to adjourn?
I would.
I will do so. I beat Scott to the punch.
Motion by Mark to adjourn,
I'll second that.
seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Adjourned at 4:21
Thank you.
PM,
guys.
Monday, March 26th. Next meeting is, regular meeting is Thursday, August 5th at 2:30.